Warrior Lore. Chapter 1961. Zhi Yunxiao gave it his all. He seemed to have activated the blood in his veins and transformed into a five-colored god. Holding the five-element spear, he rushed towards Gu Fei. The terrifying power shook the sky and earth. This was Zhi Yunxiao's natural power. Only the descendants of the Venerable One could use such a heaven-defying technique. Die! Zhi Yunxiao roared. The five elements' divine spear in his hand turned into a divine rainbow and pierced towards Gu Fei. A large hole was torn in the void between heaven and earth. Chaos. Gu Fei waved his hands in front of him, and a mysterious ripple of energy spread from his hands. After that, a shocking ray of light appeared in front of him and moved forward to meet the attack. This, Gu Fei's technique shocked Zhi Yunxiao. He had activated the blood in his veins, but his opponent was still able to use his technique. How dare you? Zhi Yunxiao roared. He did not stop and continued to pierce forward with the spear in his hand. Boom! The two multicolored divine rainbows collided with each other in an instant. Two extremely powerful forces suddenly erupted. The divine rainbows disappeared, and a destructive force swept out. Large swathes of space collapsed. This time, Gu Fei's battle skill was directly broken by Zhi Yunxiao's powerful force. Moreover, the five elements' divine spear in his hand did not stop. As it broke through his battle skill, it continued to stab towards Gu Fei. Bzzz. The five-element spear in Zhi Yunxiao's hand vibrated. Countless five-colored runes of the five elements appeared and intertwined with each other. An extremely powerful force spread from the spear. Damn! The spear was right in front of him. At this moment, Gu Fei could only face Zhi Yunxiao head-on. His right fist moved like lightning and collided with the tip of the spear. Ding! When Gu Fei's fist collided with the tip of Zhi Yunxiao's divine spear, the sound of metal colliding rang out. Although the divine spear contained a powerful force, it was still blocked by a flickering head of golden light. It could not stab any further. He struck out with the metal element divine fist, and the power of the metal element appeared on his fist. The extreme power shook Zhi Yunxiao's hands, which were holding the divine spear, to the point of numbness. The divine spear almost flew out of his hand. What? Zhi Yunxiao was shocked. He knew his current state. After being nourished by the power of his blood, his body of five elements had reached an unbelievable level. The power of the five elements' divine body was definitely more than 10 times stronger than it was before he activated his bloodline power. Is the body really that powerful? Zhi Yunxiao did not believe it. He desperately activated the power of the five elements in his body, and the tip of the spear against Gu Fei's fist began to shine with five-colored light. Humph! Gu Fei could feel the powerful force coming from the spear. He could not help but snort coldly. Then, a power of extreme yang rose from his dantian and quickly surged into his fist. Boom! With a muffled sound, Gu Fei and Zhi Yunxiao were both sent flying by the powerful force that erupted from their opponent. The descendants of a supreme martial artist are indeed blessed by the heavens. Gu Fei was sent flying thousands of feet away before he managed to stabilize himself. Although he already knew that Zhi Yunxiao's battle prowess would increase after the awakening of the sovereign bloodline, he never imagined that Zhi Yunxiao's strength would increase to the point where he could contend against him. Zhi Yunxiao's power was definitely close to that of a saint. If he had not encountered Gu Fei, he would indeed be undefeatable. Unfortunately, Zhi Yunxiao, the descendant of the Purple Cloud Sovereign, had encountered the descendant of the martial ancestor. Zhi Yunxiao did not gain any advantage in his clash with Gu Fei. Gu Fei was sent flying thousands of feet away, while he was also sent flying thousands of feet away by Gu Fei's fist. His hands, which were holding the five elements' divine spear, were bleeding. How is this possible? In the sky, the elder from the Ziyun clan was extremely shocked. Gu Fei's power was beyond his expectations. He could actually fight against Zhi Yunxiao. There's something strange about Zhi Yunxiao. On the golden warship, the arrogant elder's eyes lit up. Others could not see anything strange about Zhi Yunxiao, but it did not mean that he could not see it. Within Zhi Yunxiao's body, there was a sacred power that exploded. This power was not cultivated by Zhi Yunxiao himself. It was a power that only a sovereign could possess. Could it be that the ripple from the ancestral cord of the Ziyun clan, the arrogant elder suddenly thought of the sovereign's aura that appeared briefly yesterday? This made his expression change as he vaguely thought of something. At this moment, Gu Fei, who was facing off against Zi Yunxiao, felt a great pressure. There was a frightening aura from Zi Yunxiao's body. Why would he have such a feeling? Gu Fei did not understand. He was a cultivator, a natural-born god of war. He was more sensitive to unknown dangers than others. Zi Yunxiao actually had a power that could put him in danger. It was not a legend for cultivators to be undefeatable. Even if Zi Yunxiao had successfully awakened the sovereign's bloodline in his body, he would still not be his opponent. With regards to this, Gu Fei was very confident. What's going on? The unsettling aura on Zi Yunxiao's body grew stronger and stronger. This made Gu Fei's expression change. He did not know what was happening to Zi Yunxiao, but he knew very well that the longer this battle dragged on, the more disadvantageous it would be for him. Let's finish this quickly. The murderous intent on Gu Fei's body suddenly exploded. The shocking murderous intent caused the temperature in the surroundings to plummet. Everyone felt a bone-chilling coldness invade their bodies. Roar! Gu Fei roared into the sky. His hair danced wildly in the wind as a shocking amount of energy exploded from his body. Rumble! The void around him was vibrating. The power of the 5 elements was being transformed. Streams of primal qi started emerging from his body, coiling around him like bolts of primal qi. Humph, you want to finish this quickly? Seeing that Gu Fei was getting serious, Zi Yunxiao quickly guessed Gu Fei's intentions. He had to admit that his opponent was truly terrifying. He was able to grasp any factor that was disadvantageous to him. Hurry, it will take a while for the sovereign's god's blood to completely dissolve in my body. Zi Yunxiao screamed in his mind. As long as he could dissolve the sovereign's god's blood, even 10 Gu Feis would not be his opponent. This time, the Ziyun clan used the clan's heritage, a droplet of God's blood left behind by Sovereign Ziyun. The sovereign's aura within the droplet of God's blood had been personally refined by Sovereign Ziyun long ago. Otherwise, no one in the world would dare to absorb the sovereign's God's blood into their body, let alone refine it. The power contained within the sovereign's God's blood was unimaginable. Sovereign Ziyun's power gradually appeared on Zi Yunxiao's body again. Die! Gu Fei roared and immediately used the 8 steps of extreme speed to attack Zi Yunxiao. He disappeared from where he stood, and when he reappeared, he was already before Zi Yunxiao. Boom! Gu Fei threw a simple and direct punch, but the momentum of this punch was not small. It actually produced a muffled sound, and the entire space in front of the fist immediately collapsed and turned into primal chaos. The destructive force of the punch collided with Zi Yunxiao. Gu Fei used his full strength and his battle prowess skyrocketed. Although Zi Yunxiao managed to block this punch, he was thrown thousands of meters away. The divine shield in his hand almost flew out. This won't do. When Gu Fei saw that his full strength was blocked by his opponent, he knew that the power within Zi Yunxiao's body was not to be underestimated. If he did not use the secret technique of ascension, it was very likely that he would be defeated by Zi Yunxiao. Eat another punch of mine. Gu Fei's battle intent was like a rainbow. He used the secret technique of ascension, and an extremely terrifying force exploded from his body. His fist seemed to have turned into a chaotic meteor, smashing towards Zi Yunxiao. The terrifying ripples spread in all directions. Even at this moment, Zi Yunxiao could not help but be shocked by Gu Fei's punch. He could feel that the power of his opponent's punch was much stronger than the previous one. This was an indomitable punch. It was the result of the perfect combination of speed and power. Zi Yunxiao could not dodge this punch even if he wanted to. This punch of Gu Fei could be said to be the strongest punch he could throw. Bang! Gu Fei's primal chaos fist smashed onto Zi Yunxiao's 5 elements divine shield. The 5 elements divine shield immediately flew up and the sound of bones shattering could be heard. Zi Yunxiao's left hand, which was holding the shield, had already been broken. Wah! Zi Yunxiao spat out a mouthful of blood and his entire body was sent flying. Gu Fei's punch displayed an invincible fist intent. This punch was too strong. The power in Zi Yunxiao's body had not completely recovered, and it was difficult for him to resist the power of this punch. Again, Gu Fei took a step forward and instantly caught up to Zi Yunxiao, who was sent flying. He punched again with an indomitable momentum, causing the sky to change color. His gaze was as sharp as a peerless divine weapon. As his fists moved, the heavens and earth trembled. This was an astonishing scene. Seeing this scene, everyone was stunned. Even the old antiques were the same. Too strong, invincible within the same level. It really is not a legend. An old antique said this, his old voice trembling. What did it mean to be invincible within the same level? This was it. Even the most outstanding disciple of the Ziyun clan was not an opponent for Gu Fei. Was he invincible below the Saint Plane? Even the arrogant old man felt a great deal of pressure at this moment. This cultivator named Gu Fei was really going to defy the heavens. Even he himself might not be able to suppress this guy. Without any suspense, Gu Fei took advantage of the fact that the power in Zi Yunxiao's body had not completely recovered to perform the Heaven Ascension secret technique. Zi Yunxiao was sent flying and vomited blood continuously. Bang! Another punch was thrown and Zi Yunxiao was sent flying again. However, this time, a speck of light flew out from Zi Yunxiao's body. That is, no matter how powerful one was, there was no way they could escape from it. The transformation of a soul was just too fast. As soon as the hand appeared, Gu Fei immediately felt his body tighten. He had been bound by some sort of force, which shocked him. Bang! Gu Fei's body shook and directly shook off the binding force. Then, he rushed out from under the giant hand of the primordial spirit. What? The elder from the Ziyun clan was shocked. He didn't think that Gu Fei would be able to avoid his attack. This was far beyond his expectations. Eat my fist. After dodging the old man's grab, Gu Fei directly threw a punch at him. The violent force of the punch turned into a chaotic dragon, charging at the old man. True force could leave the body and transform into a form to kill. This was a battle technique of the martial way. Bang! Gu Fei's fist collided with the elder's soul. The elder was sent flying thousands of meters away by Gu Fei's punch, his blood and qi churning. How can this person be so powerful? The elder from the Ziyun clan was incomparably shocked. Zi Yunxiao's loss wasn't unjust. This Gu Fei was strong enough to fight against super ancient existences. One had to know that grand completion quasi-saints weren't the strongest existences on Buzhou ancestral planet. The strongest existences were the super ancient existences that had lived for countless years. Whether it was in terms of battle experience or cultivation, grand completion quasi-saints couldn't compare to them. Although these people weren't saints yet, their battle prowess was comparable to saints. Just as Gu Fei forced the elder back, the other four super ancient existences rushed over. Tenfold Ascension. Without hesitation, Gu Fei unleashed his tenfold ascension, causing his battle prowess to skyrocket by tenfold as he punched out at each of the four super ancient existences. The four super ancient existences hurried to block Gu Fei's attack, but Gu Fei managed to stop them as well. This guy's heaven-defying. Both the arrogant old man and the other super ancient existences were shocked beyond words. This Gu Fei was too terrifying. Could he really fight against existences that had lived for countless years? Swish! Gu Fei shot up into the sky, wanting to leave. Now that he had obtained the supreme god blood, he wanted to find a place to refine it as soon as possible. Where do you think you're going? The elder from the Ziyun clan roared as he charged over. Cage drawing. The elder from the Ziyun clan immediately unleashed his strongest technique. With a wave of his hands, the void around Gu Fei seemed to have truly turned into a cage. The void around Gu Fei was sealed in an instant. Countless Dao runes could be vaguely seen in the void as a massive force surged towards him from all directions. Gu Fei tried throwing out a punch, but he could feel that his movements were being obstructed. His fist seemed to be moving in slow motion, as though he was stuck in a swamp. Hand over the god blood and I'll spare your life. The elder from the Ziyun clan barked. That was the supreme god blood left behind by the Ziyun supreme. This time, the Ziyun clan had arranged a battle with Gu Fei. In order to redeem their clan's reputation, they had requested for a drop of the supreme god blood. The supreme god blood was extremely precious. Even the Huangjing clan, which was also a descendant of a supreme, did not possess it. On Buzhou ancestral star, it was definitely one of a kind. I don't need you to spare me. A cold smile appeared on Gu Fei's face. Then, an even more powerful force erupted from his body. The space sealed by the elder from the Ziyun clan immediately loosened. What? The elder from the Ziyun clan was truly shocked. He had used his full strength, but he still could not suppress Gu Fei. 20 times the power of ascension. Gu Fei roared. His martial body trembled, and the powerful sealing force around him was immediately dispersed by the force of his martial path. Swish! Gu Fei took a step and instantly appeared before the elder from the Ziyun clan. He reached out, grabbed the elder by the neck, and lifted him up. Do I spare you? Or do you have to spare me? Gu Fei's voice was extremely cold. He hated it when people threatened him. You. Only then did the elder realize that he had still underestimated Gu Fei. However, it was already too late. He was grabbed by Gu Fei, and his entire body was locked in place by the power that came from Gu Fei's hand. He could not even move a finger. How is this possible? Old Man Ao Chong and the others wanted to continue attacking, but they couldn't help but stop when they saw this scene. The power radiating from Gu Fei's body was too great. It was as if a primordial dragon had awakened, causing the entire world to tremble under the pressure of his might. Too powerful. That was the only thought in everyone's mind. Gu Fei was just too powerful right now. Even the elder from the Ziyun clan was subdued by him in a single move. The elder's cultivation and battle prowess were definitely not any weaker than the other supreme elders. Do you know what you're doing? Even though the elder from the Ziyun clan was subdued by Gu Fei, he was not someone who had experienced much. He remained calm. Humph, of course I know what I'm doing. Gu Fei sneered. He had already thought of all the possibilities. If he were to take the drop of divine blood, he would become the enemy of the entire Ziyun clan. The sovereign's divine blood left behind by the Violet Cloud Sovereign was an absolute treasure to the Ziyun clan. The clan would never trade it for a flawless saint artifact. It's good that you know. Hand it over, and I'll pretend that nothing happened. The ancestor from the Ziyun clan said, Since it's already in my hands, there's no reason for me to hand it over. Gu Fei smiled as he spoke. At the same time, a chilling, murderous aura surged from his body. Don't. The ancestor from the Ziyun clan paled in fright when he sensed the murderous intent from Gu Fei. He knew that Gu Fei wanted to kill him. Spurt. Gu Fei exerted some force in his hand, and the ancestor's head immediately exploded. It turned into a bloody mist. Even his soul did not manage to escape. Roar. Just as Gu Fei killed the ancestor from the Ziyun clan, a furious roar rang out from afar. Ziyun Shao roared at the sky from a mountain peak. His 5 elements armor was already soaked in his own blood. Gu Fei, I'm going to kill you. Ziyun Shao roared. The elder killed by Gu Fei was the ancestor of his branch. This was a great feud. Humph, is that so? I'm afraid you won't get the chance. Gu Fei tossed the headless corpse in his hand to the side and stared at Ziyun Shao on the distant mountain peak. He wanted to cut the weeds and eliminate the roots. Ziyun Shao's muscles and bones were not bad, but if he was allowed to improve further, then Gu Fei would be out of luck. He wanted to get rid of this potential threat before the time limit of the 20 times rising strength was up. However, just as Gu Fei was about to make a move, a shocking aura suddenly appeared in the distance. A peerless figure was rapidly approaching this place. What? Gu Fei's expression changed when he sensed the monstrous pressure from afar. The cultivation and strength of this peerless figure was not any weaker than Ghost Emperor Fengdu from the Soaring Dragon Ancestral Star. Chapter 1963. A terrifying pressure swept over from afar, causing the entire world to tremble. Everyone was shocked to the extreme, and they were all filled with fear. How could there be someone like this on planet Buzhou? Arrogant Elder's heart pounded. An existence like this was countless times scarier than the super antiques that had lived for countless years like them. Even old-timers like them were as weak as children in front of an adult. Even they were filled with fear. This fear originated from the deepest part of their souls. An unimaginable existence had been alerted and had personally descended upon this mountain range. Arrogant Elder and the others were all attracted by this powerful figure. In the sky above the mountain range, a silhouette appeared. It was a young man with long hair that reached his shoulders. Although this youth looked young, all the experts present could feel a great pressure coming from him. It was as if he was the heavens, the ruler of this part of the world. Who dares to steal the god blood of supremacy of the Ziyun clan? The young man in black merely took one step forward and crossed through the sky. He appeared in the sky above the amethyst mountain and looked down. He glanced at Arrogant Elder and the others. It's Gu Fei. Where's Gu Fei? When everyone snapped back to reality, Gu Fei had already disappeared. How dare you kill my clansmen and steal my god blood of supremacy? You deserve to die. The young man in black emitted a chilling, murderous intent. A wave of his will expanded from his body, instantly covering a radius of 100,000 miles. Under this wave of will, everyone trembled in fear, afraid to offend the young man in black. That Gu Fei is dead for sure. That was what old man Ao Chong thought to himself. One had to know that the cultivation state of this black-robed young man was simply way too strong. Even old man Ao Chong himself was no match for this person. However, very quickly, the young man's expression turned ugly. He could not believe that he could not sense the presence of the person who stole the god blood of supremacy. Even the presence of the god blood of supremacy had disappeared. How is this possible? The powerful will swept through the surroundings. All the cultivators and even all the living beings within a radius of 100,000 miles began to tremble under this will. That was especially true for cultivators with higher cultivation bases. They were able to sense just how terrifying this divine will was. Even their souls were trembling. This person can't be a saint, but the Ao Tsang elder's expression turned ugly. To think that there would be such an existence in the Ziyun clan. It was truly shocking. However, it seemed that there was also such an existence in the Huang clan. Old ancestor. Ziyun Shao flew over from afar. Useless fella. Even after using the god blood of a supreme being, he is still no match for that person. The black-robed young man glanced at Ziyun Shao and cursed. If they lost the sovereign god's blood just like that, it would be a great loss to the Ziyun clan. Ziyun Shao was ashamed and angry at the same time. He could not help but spit out another mouthful of blood. Go back and face the wall for 1,000 years. The black-clothed youth waved his hand and Ziyun Shao immediately flew up, disappearing into the horizon. The black-robed young man casually waved his hand and Ziyun Shao was sent 10,000 miles away. This level of cultivation was enough to stun everyone present. Senior, could you be the great sage Ziqian? Arrogant old man said carefully. To think that someone would know my name. The black-robed young man glanced at arrogant old man curiously. So it's someone from the Huang clan of the northern lands. The black-robed young man recognized arrogant old man's background with a single glance. It really is the great sage Ziqian. How is this possible? Arrogant old man's voice began to tremble. At that moment, the black-robed young man seemed to have sensed something and disappeared before everyone's eyes. Even arrogant old man did not manage to see how the black-robed young man left. The great sage Ziqian is actually still in the human realm, arrogant old man mumbled to himself. The other old antiques were extremely shocked as well. The great sage Ziqian was once an undefeatable great sage of Buzhou ancestral star. In the distant past, this great sage had almost unified the cultivation world of Buzhou ancestral star once again. In the era of the great sage Ziqian, he had subdued all the cultivation forces on Buzhou ancestral star. In the entire Buzhou ancestral star, only the Huangjin family did not submit to him. To think that someone like that was still on Buzhou ancestral star. It was unbelievable and hard to accept. One should know that sages were extinct in the current era. There should be no more sages in the human realm. Could it be that the great sage Ziqian is able to seal his cultivation? Arrogant old man thought of a possibility. The great sage Ziqian might have mastered some sort of self-sealing secret art. Swoosh! A figure suddenly appeared in the sky above a mountain ranged thousands of miles away. What's going on? I clearly sensed that he was here. Why isn't he here? The black-robed young man's expression was a little unnatural. Could it be that the other party had cultivated out an inner world and was hiding in it? How dare this? The black-robed young man could not help but be furious when he thought of this possibility. There were very few people who could cultivate out an inner world. It was not something that just anyone could master. The black-robed young man knew very well that if the person who stole the supreme divine blood hid in an inner world, even he would have a hard time finding that person. Moreover, even if he had amazing abilities, it would be hard for him to use them in the human realm. Once he used that power, the consequences would be dire. At this moment, Gu Fei had indeed hidden in his inner world. He could only retreat when encountering such a monstrous existence. The current him was far from being a match for such an existence. One should know that the person who came had cultivation and strength comparable to Ghost Emperor Fengdu. There was no doubt that Ghost Emperor Fengdu was powerful. Master. After entering the inner world, Old Dragon came to greet him. It was unknown when Old Dragon had come out from his closed-door cultivation. Old Dragon had gained a lot from this closed-door cultivation. Old Dragon's cultivation had broken through to the third heavenly layer of Almighty Realm. During this closed-door cultivation, he had advanced by 2 small realms. If such a cultivation speed were to be spread, it would definitely shock the entire cultivation world. As for Zhong Liming, he was stimulated by Old Dragon and also went into closed-door cultivation. Gu Fei's other disciple, Yao Yu, was still preparing to break through to the innate martial body. Yao Yu's cultivation had reached a bottleneck. As long as she cultivated the innate martial body, she could continue to cultivate. For a martial artist, only when the martial body continuously broke through the limits and transformed all the way could the cultivation gradually improve. The martial body was the foundation. Chapter 1964. As expected of the innate water martial physique, Yao Yu was naturally close to the essence of water. When she cultivated, she was much faster than ordinary people. In just a short period of time, she had already cultivated to the realm of awakening self. In the realm of awakening self, the potential of her martial physique had already been awakened. This was the first step in the path of martial arts. After the realm of awakening self was the realm of transcending mortality, which was a transformation of the martial physique from acquired to innate. This was the first transformation of the martial physique. In the realm of transcending mortality, Yao Yu's martial physique could communicate with the spiritual energy of heaven and earth, drawing it into her body and refining it into true qi. After that, she could open up her dantian and become a true martial artist. The great Saint Zisu of the Ziyun clan was searching for Gu Fei everywhere. However, Gu Fei had already entered the bottom of his inner world. The great Saint Zisu was a great saint in the ancient era, but now, he had already sealed himself. His cultivation had long fallen from the saint realm. If he still had the cultivation he had in the ancient era, forget about Gu Fei hiding in his inner world. Even if Gu Fei ran outside of Buzhou Star region, the great Saint Zisu would still be able to find him. Damn it! On top of a mountain, the black-clothed Zisu roared furiously. The person called Gu Fei who stole the sovereign god's blood had actually disappeared. There's not even a trace left behind. How is this possible? Zisu knew that his previous guess was probably correct. This little guy called Gu Fei should have already opened up his own inner world. Only by hiding in the inner world would he not be able to find him. Zisu was very confident. Although he had sealed himself, he still had the battle strength to look down on the world. In the ancestral Buzhou Star, there were really not many people who had the qualifications to be his opponent. If it wasn't for the sovereign god's blood, he would definitely not come out at this time. No one could deduce any clues about the great world and the human world this time. No one knew what direction this great world would develop in. The heaven's secrets had already been concealed by some sort of power. In this super great storm, even an existence like Zisu would most likely fall. Even an existence like Zidan had to be careful when dealing with this great world. Zirua directly sat down cross-legged on the mountain peak. He was waiting for the person called Gu Fei to come out from his inner world. He did not believe that that person would continue hiding in his inner world. The sovereign god blood was too important to the Ziyun clan. Gu Fei didn't know that he had already been targeted by Ziruo. At this moment, he was studying the drop of God's blood within the mountain and river cauldron within a valley within his inner world. The supreme God blood is indeed extraordinary. A scarlet drop of blood floated in the mountain and river cauldron, emitting a layer of bloody light. A supreme and sacred aura spread out from the drop of blood. Even Gu Fei had the urge to worship this aura. If I can comprehend one or two of them, I might be able to become a sage. Gu Fei continuously observed the drop of blood in the cauldron as he muttered to himself. It was no wonder that this drop of blood could attract those super ancient artifacts to make a move against him. The current world was already different from the primordial world. The world formed after the primordial world shattered, and only at certain times would the laws of the world change. This period was believed by the world of cultivation to be the most suitable time to become a sage. This period of time was the so-called Great World in the world of cultivation. Gu Fei directly transmitted his voice to Old Jiao and Yao Yu, telling them that he was going into seclusion. Afterwards, Gu Fei walked into the depths of this world. After their master went into seclusion, Old Jiao and Yao Yu also chose to continue cultivating. It must be known that their master's inner world was a divine land. Cultivating in this divine land would yield twice the results with half the effort. Gu Fei went into seclusion for 3 years. During these 3 years, he did not take a single step out of the inner world. One evening after 3 years, a fluctuation suddenly came from the depths of the divine map. Although this fluctuation was not very strong, it made all living beings in this world feel a kind of fear that came from the depths of their souls. Master is finally coming out of seclusion. Old Jiao and Yao Yu woke up with a start. Whoosh! The shadow of a dragon rushed out of a valley. The dragon aura was vast and mighty, and a huge dragon appeared high in the sky. Afterwards, the huge dragon turned into a tall, middle-aged man. At the same time, 2 women appeared on a mountain peak. These 2 women were like fairies from the 9 heavens. They did not have a trace of mortal aura, and they both had peerless looks. These 2 women were Zhongliming and Yao Yu. Roar! Roars came from another direction. There was a vast and mighty deathly aura there, and 3 powerful figures of death were faintly discernible in the towering deathly aura. Gu Fei is really abnormal, Zhongliming muttered to herself on the mountain peak. On the mountain peak, Zhongliming was muttering to herself. In the past 3 years, her cultivation had improved by leaps and bounds. She had broken through several barriers, and was now an expert at the 5th heavenly layer of Almighty Realm. Zhongliming's cultivation level was higher than old flood dragons by a layer. And Yao Yu had also improved very quickly in these 3 years. She had a water martial body, so when she cultivated water-type battle techniques, she could get twice the results with half the effort. She had already successfully broken through and become a transcending mortality realm warrior. Yao Yu's cultivation speed was absolutely unimaginable a few hundred years ago. It should be known that Gu Fei's master had cultivated martial arts all his life, but it was difficult for him to break through to the transcending mortality realm. In the end, he had died of old age. In the Taishan sect, Gu Fei's line of disciples was thin, and this was also the reason why. Rumble. At this time, the entire inner world began to shake. In the depths of the inner world, there was a wave of the great path, as if someone was about to become a saint. 9 chaotic Tao patterns were faintly discernible, gathering endless power of the great path. Master is about to break through to the saint level. Old Jiao was extremely shocked. He flew down from the sky. The wave of the great path made him not dare to stay in the sky. Gu Fei is about to become a saint. Zhongliming was dumbstruck as well. The aura of the Saint Tao was too powerful, and it was as if a saint had descended into the world. It caused one's soul to tremble, and before this aura, no one dared to even think about resisting. This kind of movement was too great. Even the ancestral dragon divine herb, which was usually elusive, had escaped from the depths of the divine land. It's the immortal herb. Zhongliming's eyes lit up when she saw the stalk of godly herb. However, before she could do anything, the ancestral dragon immortal herb disappeared in a flash. Preposterous. Chapter 1965. Rumble. the heavens and earth shook. Spiritual chi from all directions crazily gathered in the depths of this divine land. Rays of light flickered. This was the visible spiritual chi of heaven and earth. Seeing this scene, everyone couldn't help but be shocked. There seemed to be a bottomless black hole in the depths of this divine land, devouring the spiritual chi of heaven and earth. Is Gu Fei really going to become a saint? Zhong Liming's voice trembled. Becoming a saint was the goal of all cultivators. However, since the collapse of the untainted world, it seemed that no one could become a saint. This world no longer allowed the existence of saints. If Master becomes a saint, he will be the strongest martial saint since ancient times. The old dragon stared at the depths of the divine land and said these words. Gu Fei cultivated the martial way. Warriors who were successful in cultivating the martial way were invincible among those of the same rank. If Gu Fei became a martial saint, he would be able to sweep away all the saints and become the supreme among the saints. However, no one knew whether Gu Fei was trying to break through to the saint realm or not. However, what was certain was that Gu Fei's cultivation had broken through again. In the depths of the divine land, thousands of strands of auspicious chi flashed. Endless spiritual chi of heaven and earth gathered in Gu Fei's location. The density of the spiritual chi of the entire inner world was decreasing. Old Jiao and the others couldn't help but be shocked. It should be known that there were several divine springs of life in Gu Fei's divine land. With the nourishment of these springs, Gu Fei's inner world's spiritual chi was almost endless. And at this time, the density of the spiritual chi of heaven and earth in this divine land was actually decreasing. This was an unimaginable thing. Gu Fei had devoured too much spiritual chi. Just what level has Master's cultivation reached? Yao Yu sighed. Only now did she know how powerful her Master's cultivation base was. The aura of a supreme being emanating from the depths of this divine land caused her soul to tremble. She was filled with endless fear. I want to know as well, Zhong Liming muttered to himself. At this moment, Gu Fei, who was sitting cross-legged in the depths of this divine land, was completely submerged by the spiritual energy of the world that had gathered from all directions. His martial body was like a bottomless pit, constantly swallowing the spiritual energy of heaven and earth. A mass of primal chaos divine light was floating in his dantian. Above this mass of primal chaos divine light, 9 blurry Tao patterns were constantly appearing. Those were 9 Tao patterns. The 9 Tao patterns were constantly changing and gradually became clearer. However, in the end, the 9 Tao patterns couldn't truly take shape and remained blurry. Roar. After devouring the endless spiritual energy of heaven and earth, Gu Fei faced the sky and let out a long roar. His voice reverberated throughout the entire inner world. The spiritual energy of the inner world no longer gathered towards him. The heavenly tribulation did not come. Elder Jiao and the others sensed that the terrifying ripples from the depths of this divine land were retreating like a tide, finally disappearing from this world. Everyone breathed a sigh of relief. While they were still in shock, a figure appeared in the sky above the mountain they were on, smiling at them. Master. Elder Jiao and Yao Yu saw this person and hurriedly bowed. Gu Fei. Zhong Liming couldn't help but be stunned when he saw this person. Then, he was pleasantly surprised. This Gu Fei has finally come out of seclusion. Just what level has his cultivation reached? They couldn't see through Gu Fei at all. That drop of sovereign god blood was really useful. Gu Fei couldn't help but sigh when he sensed the seemingly inexhaustible power in his body. His current cultivation had already reached the grand completion quasi-saint realm. The reason why his cultivation increased so quickly was all because of that drop of sovereign god blood. The sovereign god blood contained the sovereign's Tao. If one could comprehend a little or two, becoming a quasi-saint would not be a problem. Gu Fei only comprehended the Tao within the drop of sovereign god blood for 3 years and became a grand completion quasi-saint. He only comprehended a little bit of it. The sovereign's Tao was really broad and profound. No one could truly grasp this Tao. No wonder the people of the Ziyun clan were so nervous after losing that drop of sovereign god blood. Now, Gu Fei was not afraid of anyone. With his grand completion quasi-saint cultivation, He was confident that he could even fight against the terrifying existence of the Ziyun clan. Gu Fei saw that Elder Jiao and Yao Yu's cultivation had increased a lot. He couldn't help but feel happy. Then, he went to the top of the mountain to teach the two disciples the Tao. Soon, Elder Jiao and Yao Yu were immersed in it. Even Zhong Liming was immersed in it. Many questions that he couldn't understand in cultivation were now understood. Gu Fei didn't teach them any powerful techniques. He only explained the Tao of heaven and earth, directly pointing to the origin of cultivation. Even Yao Yu, who was only at the transcending mortality realm, could understand this logic. 2 hours later, Gu Fei stopped and let Elder Jiao and the others comprehend on their own. It's time to go out. That guy shouldn't be here anymore. Elder Jiao and the others entered some kind of cultivation state. They wouldn't wake up so easily. Gu Fei wanted to leave the inner world and take a look. One should know that Gu Zhong was still training on ancestral Star Buzhou. In 3 years, Gu Zhong should be able to make a name for himself on ancestral Star Buzhou. Whoosh! An empty space near Amethyst Mountain suddenly rippled like water. Then, a figure passed through the layer of empty space and walked out. At this moment, a figure sitting on the top of the Amethyst Mountain suddenly opened his eyes. It's been 3 years. You're finally out. A powerful will immediately descended on Gu Fei. This made Gu Fei tense up. He couldn't help but be shocked. Oh no. As soon as Gu Fei came out of the inner world, he was locked onto by someone's will. Moreover, the person who locked onto him was extremely powerful. He seemed to be much stronger than those super antiques. Haha! A loud laugh came from the Amethyst Mountain. Then, a young man in black stood up and took a step forward. In an instant, he appeared in front of Gu Fei. Did you think that I wouldn't be able to find you by hiding in the inner world? The young man in black looked at Gu Fei with a faint smile on his face. A powerful pressure spread from his body and shocked the surroundings. Gu Fei could see that the young man in black did not deliberately release his pressure. However, the young man just stood there and the pressure naturally emitted from his body. It's you. Although Gu Fei was surprised, he still pretended to be shocked. Chapter 1966. Hand over the God's sovereign blood. The black-robed young man said indifferently. He did not think that Gu Fei was his opponent. Even if Gu Fei was already a grand completion quasi-saint, the outcome would still be the same. From Zidan's point of view, the reason why Gu Fei's cultivation was able to rise so quickly was definitely because of the God's sovereign blood. Otherwise, how could a beginner quasi-saint become a grand completion quasi-saint in just 3 short years? Other than the members of the Ziyun clan, outsiders would definitely not be able to refine the God's sovereign blood. Zidan was not worried that this person called Gu Fei would refine the God's sovereign blood. Why should I hand it over? The black-robed young man acted all high and mighty, clearly not putting him in his eyes at all. However, Gu Fei was not afraid of this black-robed young man. If it was 3 years ago, he would still be wary of this black-robed young man. But now, the situation was different. Very well. Since you want to court death, don't blame me. Zidan did not speak much. He immediately stretched out his hand, and with his right hand spread open, he grabbed towards Gu Fei. Gu Fei noticed that even though Zidan's grab seemed to be a casual grab, it contained a power that even he was unable to understand, and it actually instantly sealed off all his paths of retreat. Zidan's hand was magnified endlessly in Gu Fei's eyes. Humph! Gu Fei threw out a punch. Extreme chaotic Tao runes appeared on his fist, and a powerful wave of energy surged out from his fist. Bang! Gu Fei's fist collided with Zidan's hand, and a muffled sound rang out. After that, Gu Fei's fist was caught by Zidan's hand. You're still too inexperienced to fight against me. Zidan exerted force and actually lifted Gu Fei's entire body up before smashing him fiercely onto the ground. Boom! With a loud sound, Gu Fei smashed onto the ground. The powerful impact created a huge crater in the forest below. The ground trembled and dust flew everywhere. Very good. Step by step, Gu Fei walked out of the pit on the ground. A shocking aura erupted from his body. He looked like a god of war. His long hair fluttered even though there was no wind, and his eyes were incomparably resplendent. Suppress. At that moment, Ziruo had already formed a seal with her hands and pressed it down towards Gu Fei's head. A powerful sealing force immediately descended from the seal in Ziruo's hands. Boom! This sealing force struck Gu Fei's body and directly smashed him into the ground. Moreover, this sealing force turned into 9 Dao patterns that were imprinted on his body. Zidan wanted to seal Gu Fei with 9 Dao patterns. It's not that easy to seal me. The power within Gu Fei's body burst forth. 9 primal chaos Dao patterns emerged on his body, forcing out the 9 Dao patterns that were imprinted on his body. 9 Dao patterns. I didn't think that you'd actually formed 9 Dao patterns. Zidan was very shocked. This Gu Fei had not become a saint yet, but he was actually able to form 9 Dao patterns. Gu Fei's 9 Dao patterns were blurry. Although they had not truly taken form, they could still draw upon the power of the great Dao. Buzz. The space around Gu Fei violently trembled, emitting a rumbling sound. The 9 Dao patterns that Ziruo imprinted on Gu Fei's body were immediately dispersed by the power of Gu Fei's Dao patterns. Bang! Soil flew everywhere. Gu Fei charged out from the ground, then struck out with a heaven-encompassing palm. Rumble! The huge palm covered the sky and directly slammed towards Ziruo in the sky. It was as if 100,000 ancient divine mountains were moving, causing the entire world to tremble. Gu Fei did not think that this person would actually guard the Violet Cloud Mountain for 3 years. In the end, he was still too careless, allowing this guy from the Ziyun clan to lock onto his chi. However, Gu Fei was no longer the Gu Fei from 3 years ago. His cultivation and battle prowess at the peak of the quasi-saint realm allowed him to fight against a supreme expert of this level. Ancient martial arts battle skills? When Zidan saw Gu Fei casting the heaven-encompassing palm, his pupils involuntarily contracted. He did not dare to be careless. After all, in the ancient era, martial artists were synonymous with power. It was not a legend for martial artists to be invincible among those of the same level. Endless reincarnation, Zidan shouted out loudly. He unleashed the great technique he had created. In an instant, countless vortexes appeared around his body, and behind every single vortex was a reincarnation. The heaven-encompassing palm was devoured by the countless whirlpools. Then, even Gu Fei was devoured by these whirlpools. What? Gu Fei was taken aback, but he did not panic. Instead, his divine soul fell into a coma, and he almost fell into eternal darkness. What a powerful great technique. Whoosh. At this crucial moment, a ray of violet light shot out from the center of Gu Fei's brows. His slumbering primordial spirit actually showed signs of awakening. However, one of the embryos in his Niwen palace merely trembled. The primordial spirit that was being nurtured in the embryos did not truly awaken. The primordial spirit transforming into the embryos of the Tao was to nurture a new life. This process might be very long. After all, the process of nurturing a new life was very complicated. Gu Fei's soul instantly woke up from that drowsy state. He felt a lingering fear. He had truly fallen into the endless reincarnation. If that was really the case, then he would be doomed eternally and would be obliterated within the endless reincarnation. What? Ziruo, who controlled the endless reincarnation, sensed that Gu Fei had not fallen into the reincarnation at all. He couldn't help being incomparably shocked. The technique he had created had already annihilated countless powerful opponents. There were only a few people who could be trapped by his technique and escape from it. Primal Chaos Sword. Split the heavens and earth. Gu Fei's body was filled with Primal Chaos True Force. A Primal Chaos Divine Sword condensed in front of him, emitting a terrifying sword chi. Buzz. The Primal Chaos Sword hummed. The Primal Chaos Divine Sword soared into the sky, displaying great might. In an instant, it soared into the sky and tore a hole in Zidan's endless reincarnation. This time, Zidan was truly shocked. He realized that he had underestimated this opponent. He was truly invincible amongst those in the same realm. He was unconvinced. One must know that he was not an ordinary Grand Completion Quasi-Saint. The so-called Grand Completion Quasi-Saint was a joke in front of him. With his battle prowess, he could easily annihilate a large group of Grand Completion Quasi-Saints. This is preposterous. Zidan was slightly angered. A strange sound suddenly came from his body. Then, a sealing force rushed out from his body. He had undone the seal that was suppressing his body. After the seal was broken, a powerful force in his body was instantly awakened. A saint aura spread out from Zidan's body, causing the world to lose its color and the sun and moon to lose their luster. This was actually the true aura of a saint, shocking the heavens. Rumble. What the hell is going on? In Gu Fei's mind, thoughts were constantly spinning. He seemed to feel that he had grasped something, but he didn't know what it was. He couldn't explain it clearly. Damned heavens, so annoying. Zidan raised his head to look. A bright light flickered in his eyes. When that bolt of lightning struck a few dozen feet above his head, it exploded, transforming into countless electric currents. Those electric currents were like silver snakes, coiling towards Zirua. However, there seemed to be an invisible wall surrounding Zirua's body, blocking all of the electric currents outside. Rumble. Thunder rumbled endlessly in the sky, and bolts of lightning struck down towards Zidan. However, the might of the heaven and earth was unable to harm Zidan in the slightest. Gu Fei's aura had already risen to a certain point, and he had a feeling that he would not be satisfied if he did not vent it out. The power that had gathered in his body was about to be vented out. Streams of primal chi coiled around his body. The space around him trembled, and the power of an advanced stage quasi-saint was completely displayed on his body. Humph! Zidan snorted coldly and suddenly disappeared from where he stood. Gu Fei's pupils couldn't help but contract, and then he soared into the sky. With a single step, Tao markings appeared beneath his feet, and in an instant, he soared tens of thousands of feet into the sky. His extreme speed of 8 steps was displayed to the fullest. Bang! Right at the moment when Gu Fei soared into the sky, the place he was originally at suddenly exploded, transforming into primal chaos. A figure appeared where Gu Fei originally stood. So fast, when Gu Fei saw that, his heart couldn't help but tremble. Zidan's movement speed seemed to be able to catch up to his extreme speed of 8 steps. And when Zidan saw that Gu Fei was actually able to dodge his attack, he was a little astonished. Gu Fei's movement speed was not to be underestimated. It was a profound and unfathomable footwork. Primal Chaos Fist. Gu Fei immediately retaliated. His right fist directly punched out towards Zidan. On his fist, 9 blurry Tao markings faintly appeared. This fist seemed to have brought along the power of the great Tao of the heaven and earth as it struck towards Zidan. Zidan's expression changed. This fist of Gu Fei's was incredible. He never thought that Gu Fei's understanding towards the great Tao had already reached such a level. Star River Reverse. Zidan executed a great technique, and an endless amount of starlight appeared in the dusky sky. He actually guided down a star river, and it flew towards Gu Fei's fist, indirectly guiding the endless power of the stars with a wave of his hand. This method caused even Gu Fei to be shocked. Boom! Gu Fei's fist smashed onto the star river that was charging towards him. The might of his fist exploded, and the star river collapsed. The endless starlight dissipated within the void. Although he managed to disperse the star river, he himself was also sent flying several hundred meters away. So powerful, Gu Fei felt a slight pain coming from his right fist, as though his skin and flesh were being torn apart. This caused him to be incomparably shocked. One must know that he was a full-tier quasi-saint martial artist. Other than battle prowess, a powerful martial body was also a form of capital for a martial artist. Zidan, who had undone the first seal on his body, was truly powerful. At the very least, he was more than 10 times stronger than before. The surge of power on Zidan's body caused Gu Fei to feel an immense pressure. Roar! Gu Fei roared out furiously. In the next moment, he directly charged towards Zidan. Swish! In the process of charging towards Zidan, Gu Fei's body suddenly became blurry and actually split into 2. One Gu Fei turned into 2 Gu Feis. Then, the 2 Gu Feis turned into 3 Gu Feis. 3 powerful figures charged towards Zidan at the same time. The three figures' power and speed were all the same. No one knew which one was Gu Fei's real body. What? This is... When Zidan saw this scene, he was truly shocked. He had already recognized this secret technique. This was one of the 9 secret techniques created by the Taoist ancestor. Chapter 1968. 3 Pure Ones? How is this possible? Ziruo was truly shocked. He was an existence that was even more ancient than a super antique. He was a true figure from the ancient era who had sealed himself in the present. He had experienced the ancient era where experts were as numerous as trees in a forest. The 9 secrets of immortal Tao created by the Wushang Tao ancestor were supreme divine arts that shook the heavens during the ancient era. Of course, the 9 secrets of immortal Tao were already incomplete during the ancient era. However, some of the successors of the Wushang Tao ancestor still managed to cultivate some of the secret arts within the 9 secrets. The Wushang Tao ancestor passed down the secret art of 3 Pure Ones to one of his 9 great disciples, the 3 Pure Ones. The reason why the 3 Pure Ones were called the 3 Pure Ones was because they cultivated the secret art of 3 Pure Ones. During the ancient era, the 3 Pure Ones' fame shook the entire ancient era. He was a ruthless character who once ventured deep into the devil domain and killed 18 innate great devils before escaping unscathed. The 3 Pure Ones were publicly acknowledged to be the strongest among the 9 great disciples of the Wushang Tao ancestor. The moment the secret art of 3 Pure Ones was unleashed, it was equivalent to 3 Pure Ones attacking at the same time. The 3 Pure Ones were existences at the quasi-sovereign level. Who could withstand 3 Pure Ones attacking at the same time? At this moment, the 3 Gu Feis attacked Ziruo at the same time. This caused Ziruo to be incomparably shocked and fearful at the same time. The might of this secret art was truly terrifying. Boom! A huge primal hand rushed out from one of the Gu Fei's hands and slapped towards Ziruo. A powerful ripple shook the heavens and earth. This was the heaven-covering hand. This was how terrifying the 3 Pure Ones were. Regardless of which one of the 3 Gu Feis was the real one, they were all able to unleash his own martial arts battle skills. Heaven-covering hand, primal chaos fist, 5 elemental sword. 3 battle skills were unleashed at the same time, causing a terrifying ripple to shake the heavens and earth. Bam! Zidan used a great technique to block the heaven-shrouding hand. However, a primal chaos fist smashed onto Zidan's shoulder. Zidan was instantly sent flying by the huge force. At the same time, 5 sword lights instantly streaked across Ziruo's body, leaving 5 sword scars on his body. This, Gu Fei was incomparably shocked. He knew very well how powerful his punch was. However, his opponent seemed to be unharmed after taking his punch head-on. Especially those 5 strikes. It caused Gu Fei to feel even more disbelief. The clothes on Zidan's body were slashed open 5 times by his sword aura, yet no bloodstains seeped out from beneath his clothes. Humph! Ziruo sneered, then charged over from afar. He threw a punch towards Gu Fei, and an overflowing power surged out from his fist, enveloping the 3 figures that Gu Fei had transformed into within the power of his fist. Boom! Gu Fei's 3 figures each smashed out a fist, blocking Zidan's fist. However, the powerful force that came from Zidan's fist caused him to be pushed back several hundred meters. On the other hand, Ziruo was like an unshakable primordial divine mountain, and he did not take even half a step back. What? Only then did Gu Fei realize that he seemed to have neglected something. Zidan was a saint from the primordial era. Even though his cultivation as a saint had been sealed, his fleshly body was still the body of a saint. This was the fleshly body of a saint. Even if Zidan was not a body cultivator, his fleshly body was still powerful to the point where even Gu Fei was shocked. The ending has already been decided from the very beginning. Even if I stand here and let you attack me, you won't be able to harm me. Zidan approached Gu Fei step by step, and the trace of an evil smile on the corner of his mouth became even more obvious. That might not be the case. Gu Fei's voice rang out from the 3 figures, and it was impossible to tell which one was real and which one was fake. The 3 Pure Ones are indeed wondrous. Zidan's eyes brightened. If I can capture this guy, I might be able to obtain the 9 secrets of the immortal Tao. Thinking about that, Zidan's breathing hastened. Boom! As he said that, an astonishing power suddenly erupted from Gu Fei's 3 figures. Gu Fei's aura was rapidly rising, and the entire world was trembling. Pitch-black spatial cracks appeared around the 3 figures. Seeing that Gu Fei's aura was rising once again, Zidan's eyes shone even brighter. Kill. Gu Fei displayed the secret art of ascension, causing his combat power to rise by 10 times. The world lost its color, and the entire region was filled with his terrifying aura and pressure, intimidating all living things. What's going on? That human martial body has appeared again. The terrifying pressure spread across a radius of several tens of thousands of miles. Quite a few cultivators who were cultivating in the mountains were alarmed, and they all rushed out from their cultivation grounds. 3 astonishing powers erupted at the same time from the 3 Gu Feis. He channeled 2 secret arts at the same time, causing his combat power to rise to a level that even Zidan's expression changed. The 9 heavenly stars sword appeared in Gu Fei's hand, an ancient cauldron appeared in another Gu Fei's hand, and a peerless sword appeared in the 3rd Gu Fei's hand. What? A supreme divinity weapon? How is this possible? When Zidan first saw the 9 heavenly stars sword, he did not think much of it. However, when he saw the other 2 items in Gu Fei's hands, he could not help but be shocked. An ancient cauldron and a weapon that emitted a peerless sword aura. One of them was unremarkable, while the other was extremely sharp. However, both of these supreme divinity weapons exuded a powerful aura of the Tao. Even Zidan, who was once a saint, was shaken by the presence of such a flawless grand Tao. At this moment, Zidan no longer had the time to think, because Gu Fei had already charged over with the weapon in his hand. The sword forged from the godly steel of indestructible was nothing much, but if it were to be struck by the cauldron or the violet gold sword, even the body of a saint would be injured, especially the violet gold sword, which contained an astonishing killing intent. If one were to be struck by the sword, the consequences would be unthinkable. Whoosh! Zidan used his movement technique and dodged. At the same time, a divine rope shot out from his body, then coiled around Gu Fei. The divine rope turned into a huge black dragon, emitting a peerless and terrifying ripple. It was a flawless divinity weapon. The moment the 9 heavenly stars sword in Gu Fei's hand touched the black dragon formed by the black rope, it was knocked away. Even when the mountain and river cauldron smashed onto the black dragon, it could only barely block it. The mountain and river cauldron had yet to awaken, so it could not suppress the divine rope. But the violet gold sword was different. Even if it had yet to awaken, its sharpness was enough to cut the black dragon formed by the divine rope. However, the black dragon did not dare to clash head-on with the violet gold sword and dodged. Chapter 1969. A great battle erupted. Gu Fei used the 3 pure ones and the Ascension secret technique, raising his battle prowess to the limit. Wielding the 9 heavenly stars sword and the mountain and river cauldron, the violet gold divine sword, he clashed with Ziruo. Terrifying ripples spread in all directions. All living beings within several tens of thousands of miles were startled. Many cultivators who were cultivating in the mountains soared into the sky and looked towards the source of the ripples in fear. Who's fighting? Everyone was bewildered. Many people rushed towards the area where Gu Fei and the others were, wanting to find out what was happening near the Amethyst Mountain. Kill. At that moment, Gu Fei's killing intent skyrocketed. He did not hold back and attacked with all his strength. The 9 heavenly stars sword emitted a dazzling sword light, continuously tearing apart the world and clashing with Ziruo's hands. A saint's physical body was truly too powerful. Even the 9 heavenly stars sword refined from the godly metal of indestructible could not harm Ziruo at all. However, no matter how conceited Ziruo was, he did not dare to use his hands to block the sharpness of the violet gold divine sword. The 2 supreme god artifacts caused him to hesitate, and he could not attack as he pleased. Swoosh! A ray of violet gold divine sword light streaked past Ziruo. His robes immediately fell soundlessly. He was swept by the chilling sword chi, and a bloody mark appeared below his left ribs. This, Zidan's shock was truly no small matter. The murderous aura on the purple-gold divine sword was extraordinary. It was the murderous aura contained within a sovereign divine weapon. He only felt a wave of chilling air enter his body. Half of his body instantly became numb. The supreme killing intent only took an instant to make half of his body lose feeling. Bang! At that moment, a huge cauldron smashed over and directly sent Zirua flying tens of thousands of feet away. He coughed up a large mouthful of blood and looked extremely miserable. Damn it! The left half of Zirua's body was corroded by the killing intent emitted from the violet gold divine sword. Only the right half of his body could still move. He was both shocked and furious. After being smashed by the mountain and river cauldron, his body almost exploded. He suffered a great impact and did not dare to stay any longer. Shwa! The scroll flew out from Zirua's body and unfurled before him. A ball of divine light rushed out from the scroll and enveloped Zirua. After that, space trembled. The ball of divine light enveloped Zisu and entered the void, disappearing without a trace. Greater teleportation Dao Scroll. Gu Fei wanted to stop Zirua, but Zirua's movements were too fast. By the time Gu Fei came back to his senses, Zirua had already fled into the void. Gu Fei was very clear about how terrifying the killing intent on the violet gold divine sword was. It was definitely a killing intent that could only be formed after being stained with the blood of a sovereign. Although Zidan was not truly slashed by the violet gold divine sword and was only brushed by the sword chi, a strand of killing intent still managed to invade Zidan's body. Even if this strand of weak killing intent was unable to take Zirua's life, it was enough for Zirua to suffer. Shwa! Tens of thousands of miles away from the Amethyst Mountain, in the sky, a figure fell out of the void and then fell to the ground. Plop! That person directly fell into a large lake below. Very quickly, countless fishes floated up from the surface of the lake. These fishes immediately flipped over. They were all dead. What is that? What's going on? Many people rushed out from all directions and pointed at the shore of the lake. This was the location of one of the 10 great sects in the southern region of Buzhou, the Qingyang Temple. This huge lake was located at the back mountain of the Qingyang Temple, and the back mountain was the training ground of the younger generation of the Qingyang Temple. Very quickly, a few elderly people arrived above the huge lake. The fishes in the lake are all dead. I sensed a terrifying killing intent. The few elderly people's expressions were extremely solemn. No one dared to enter the lake to check, because there was a shocking killing intent in the lake. This killing intent caused even their souls to tremble. He was only slightly brushed by the sword chi, and he actually, at that moment, at the bottom of the lake, a figure floated up and down. That person was Zirua, who was injured by Gu Fei's sword chi with the violet gold godly sword. Zirua's current state was terrible. That wisp of sovereign's killing intent was still gradually spreading towards the right side of his body, and the life force in his body was constantly being devoured by the killing intent. As long as the killing intent was allowed to spread throughout his entire body, at that time, he would also die. Zirua was, after all, a saint who had sealed himself. Although his cultivation and realm were sealed, his physical body was a true saint's physical body. The life force contained within a saint's physical body was unimaginable. Even that wisp of sovereign's killing intent could not spread throughout Zirua's entire body in a short period of time. Looks like I have to use that thing. While his right hand could still move, Zirua hurriedly took out a jade bottle from his body. Then, he placed the jade bottle in his mouth and carefully used his teeth to bite open the cork, then swallowed a drop of medicine from the jade bottle. The moment the medicine entered his mouth, it immediately turned into a vast life force. Even the sovereign's killing intent showed signs of being dispersed. Only the godly medicine of immortality could dispel the sovereign's killing intent. Zirua was a saint of the Ziyun clan, and he actually had a drop of blood essence from the godly medicine of immortality. It was not a drop of the godly medicine of immortality that ordinary people could obtain. However, the Purple Cloud Sovereign had once unified the ancestral star of Buzhou, and had even expanded his influence to the neighboring ancestral star. Naturally, the purple cloud sovereign had a stock of godly medicine of immortality. However, after the purple cloud sovereign disappeared, the stock of godly medicine of immortality disappeared as well. No one knew just who had the stock of godly medicine of immortality that had once followed the purple cloud sovereign. Without the invincible cultivation of a sovereign, even a cultivator who had obtained the godly medicine of immortality would not have the ability to protect it. Sooner or later, it would be snatched away by others. For the sake of the clan, the purple cloud sovereign had not only left behind his own blood essence, he had also left behind dozens of blood essences from the godly medicine of immortality. Zerua had a drop of blood essence from the godly medicine of immortality with him. The blood essence from the godly medicine of immortality was a priceless treasure that could protect one's life. Very soon, Zerua felt himself being enveloped by warmth. His body was warm, and it was extremely comfortable. At this moment, the medicinal effect of the godly medicine of immortality took effect. As if the sovereign's killing intent in Zerua's body had met its nemesis, it was gradually forced out by the medicinal effect. However, it was still the sovereign's killing intent. Even after consuming a drop of blood essence from the godly medicine of immortality, it was difficult to completely expel the killing intent in Zerua's body. Right after Zerua left with a great teleportation scroll, Gu Fei also left the Amethyst Mountain. It was time to search for a way to return to the ancestral star of the Soaring Dragon. Chapter 1970. The Violet Gold Godly Sword was a sovereign godly sword that specialized in killing. The murderous aura on the sword could only be condensed after being stained with the blood of a sovereign. Even a peak saint would find it hard to withstand such a murderous aura. Purple managed to keep his life, but his ancestors' graves were also emitting green smoke. If he had been struck by the Violet Gold Godly Sword, he would have died even if he was a self-proclaimed saint. Fortunately, he was struck by a strand of sword aura and carried the blood essence of the immortal herb. The immortal herb was a spiritual item that could exist for a long time. However, the price of longevity was that it was difficult for the immortal herb to grow stronger. Since ancient times, immortal herbs would always follow some powerhouses and seek protection from them. The Violet Cloud Sovereign had an immortal herb, but after the Violet Cloud Sovereign disappeared, this immortal herb disappeared along with him. Having the immortal herb was equivalent to having an extra life. Even if a sovereign was fatally injured, he could use the immortal herb to prolong his life. At the bottom of the lake at the back mountain of the Qingyang Pavilion, Purple was circulating the mystical art in his body to dissolve the blood essence of the immortal herb. The murderous aura that had infiltrated his body was gradually expelled, and he could feel the vitality on the left side of his body gradually recovering. Soon, experts from the Ziyun clan arrived at the Qingyang Pavilion, causing the people of the Qingyang Pavilion to panic. They did not know what had happened. After all, the true ruler of the southern region of Buzhou was the Ziyun clan. The Qingyang Pavilion was only a peripheral force of the Ziyun clan. The lake at the back mountain of the Qingyang Pavilion was quickly sealed off by the experts of the Ziyun clan. No one was allowed to approach it. Just as the experts of the Ziyun clan arrived at the Qingyang Pavilion, Gu Fei had left the Violet Cloud Mountains. He wanted to find a way to leave the ancestral star of Buzhou. It was time to return to the ancestral star of the Soaring Dragon. For several days, Gu Fei appeared in various cities in the southern region of Buzhou. He could only find out what he wanted to know in cities with a relatively high concentration of cultivators. Of course, the truly powerful cultivators would not be willing to live in cities, but the city lords of these cities were not weak. Cities needed experts to guard them. The forces on Buzhou Ancestral Star were different from the Soaring Dragon Ancestral Star. There were no countries on Buzhou Ancestral Star. Instead, it was dominated by cultivation forces. The entire southern region of Buzhou was the territory of the Ziyun clan. Under the Ziyun clan, there were 10 great sections. Each sect occupied an area. Within the sphere of influence of the great sects, everyone had to obey the decrees issued by the great sections. Disobedience was not tolerated. A great sect was like a relatively independent country. Have you heard? The people from the Black Lotus Holy Land discovered an ancient ruin in the forsaken land of the gods. That ruin seems to be related to Jizun. What? Ancient ruins? Isn't that an existence even more ancient than the Violet Cloud Sovereign? That's right. I heard that many experts have already rushed over, and many of them have died. Peerless City. In a pavilion next to the southern street of the city, there were a few cultivators gathered. They were whispering to each other, and opposite the pavilion, in a restaurant, sat an ordinary-looking young man in black. Forsaken land of the gods? The black-clothed young man muttered to himself. Although they were separated by a street, he could still hear the conversation of the cultivators in the opposite pavilion. There were a few dishes and a pot of wine on the table in front of the young man. He was pouring himself a cup of wine. There weren't many people in the restaurant. They were all ordinary people from Peerless City. Peerless City was a city under the jurisdiction of the Purple Profound sect, one of the 10 great sects in the southern region of Buzhou. The strength of the Purple Profound sect was considered above average among the 10 great sections. Only the people of the Purple Profound sect would dare to casually talk about the Black Lotus Holy Land, which was also one of the 10 great sections. Ancient ruins? It's not a bad idea to take a look. The black-clothed young man muttered to himself. He seemed to be casually pouring himself a cup of wine, but the conversation of the cultivators in the opposite pavilion was clearly heard by him. The forsaken land of the gods was a forbidden land in the southern region of Buzhou. Legend had it that it was a place abandoned by the gods. Not a single blade of grass grew there, and it was a place devoid of spiritual energy. The lack of spiritual energy was a very serious problem for cultivators. After all, cultivators could absorb the spiritual energy of the world to nourish themselves. Once there was no spiritual energy in the outside world, cultivators would not be able to obtain any spiritual energy from the outside world to replenish themselves. Every bit of essence energy they used would decrease. The essence energy in a cultivator's body was not limitless. The more they used, the more it would be consumed. However, although the forsaken land of the gods was a forbidden land, there were still many cultivators who entered despite knowing the dangers to try their luck. Every year, many cultivators would be lost in the forsaken land of the gods and never come out. Even the 10 great sects of the southern region would send their disciples into the forsaken land of the gods from time to train. Those who could come out of the forsaken land of the gods would receive great nurturing from their sections. The news that a disciple of the Black Lotus Holy Land had actually found a ruin in the forsaken land of the gods had already spread far and wide, attracting the attention of all the major powers in the southern region. However, the Ziyun clan did not respond even after a long time. As the ruler of the southern region, the Ziyun clan's silence seemed a little abnormal. However, no one knew that the Ziyun clan was no longer in the mood to care about this matter. The Ziyun clan had lost the sovereign god blood, and Zi had almost died. The experts of the Ziyun clan were now gathered in the Qingyang Palace to protect Zi. Zi had suffered serious injuries when he came out this time. Even with the essence blood of the immortal herb, it would be difficult for him to fully recover in a short period of time. The forsaken land of the gods was located in the southern region of the Buzhou ancestral planet, between the Amethyst Mountains and the Antarctic Sea. It had a radius of 100,000 kilometers and almost completely blocked the connection between the Amethyst Mountains and the Antarctic Sea. The other major power in the southern region, the South Pole Immortal Mansion, was located in the depths of the Antarctic Sea. Gu Fei left Peerless City and headed straight for the Amethyst Mountains. Before he left Peerless City, he had already bought a map of the southern region. The location of the forsaken land of the gods was clearly marked on the map. The forsaken land of the gods, the ancient ruins. I'm really looking forward to it. On the peak of a mountain, a few hundred kilometers away from Peerless City, Gu Fei faced the mountain breeze and looked towards the Amethyst Mountains. Swoosh! He shot into the sky and used the Void 8 Desolation steps, disappearing into the horizon in an instant. His speed was unimaginably fast. At this time, many experts from the 10 great sects of the south were also rushing towards the forsaken land of the gods. Roar! An earth-shattering roar came from the depths of the Amethyst Mountains. A wild beast the size of a small mountain was showing off its might as it chased after a person. Beast! The person dodged between the rocks at an extremely fast speed. The wild beast was full of brute force, but it could not even touch the corner of the person's clothes. The wild beast was a long-haired golden ape. Its golden fur seemed to be cast from gold, and there were traces of golden light circulating on it. Whoosh! The long-haired golden ape was obviously angered by the person. It roared and swung its arms wildly at the person with great strength. The person dodged the long-haired golden ape, but he did not make a move. Boom! The long-haired golden ape's fist smashed into a huge boulder the size of a small mountain behind the person. Chapter 1971. The Violet Cloud Mountain Range was vast and boundless. The Forsaken Land of the Gods only occupied a small portion of the Violet Cloud Mountain Range. However, the location of the Forsaken Land of the Gods just happened to be between the Violet Cloud Mountain Range and the Antarctic Sea. If the cultivators from the Amethyst Mountain Range wanted to go out to sea, they would have to pass through the Forsaken Land of the Gods. Otherwise, they would have to take a detour. This detour would take a long time. However, they had no choice but to take a detour, because no one had ever crossed the entire Forsaken Land of the Gods. Those who had attempted to do so had all died. On this day, there were many cultivators outside the Forsaken Land of the Gods. Rumble! A war chariot charged over from the direction of the Violet Cloud Mountain Range, crushing down from high up in the sky, causing the heavens and earth to tremble. A powerful aura emanated from the war chariot. That's the chariot of the Purple Profound Sect. The experts of the Purple Profound Sect are here. In the mountains, someone recognized the war chariot that had charged directly into the Forsaken Land of the Gods. The Purple Profound Sect was one of the top 10 sects in the South. There were many experts in the sect. There were rumors that the founding ancestor of the Purple Profound Sect was still alive, but he had sealed himself. Whether this news was true or false, it was enough to shock everyone. One had to know that the founding masters of the 10 great sects had once followed the Violet Cloud Sovereign's 10 tribes. The 10 tribes' war gods were great saints who had once fought for the Violet Cloud Sovereign and made great achievements in battle. Who was it that came? In the forest, many cultivators were guessing that the powerful aura coming from the chariot was definitely a powerful half-step sage. There were 13 half-step sages in the Profound Purple Sect. The Purple Profound Sect's sect master was a Great Perfection Quasi-Sage. In the current cultivation world, Great Perfection Quasi-Sages were publicly acknowledged to stand at the pinnacle of experts. Unless a sage appeared, Great Perfection Quasi-Sages were invincible. Of course, there were differences in strength between Great Perfection Quasi-Sages. Rumble! Just when the crowd of cultivators was guessing who came from the Purple Profound Sect, a muffled, thunderous sound came from the distant sky. That is, all the cultivators on the mountain ridge raised their heads and looked towards the horizon. Another chariot appeared on the horizon, rushing towards the Forsaken Land of the Gods. Roar! The savage beast that was pulling the chariot suddenly roared. The sound was deafening, shocking all the cultivators. This savage beast was incredible. It definitely had the combat power of a supreme being. It was a crimson steed with a black horn on its head. The steed had clouds beneath its feet as it galloped through the air. It was very fast, and soon it came close. It's a red-scaled horse. Could it be that the Palace Lord of the Fire God Palace, one of the top 10 sects, has personally come? All the cultivators who saw this chariot were incomparably shocked because only one of the 10 great sects, the Fire God Palace, had this scarlet scale horse. This was a type of fire-type beast, and its entire body was covered in scarlet scales that were like scarlet flames. From afar, it looked like a rising flame. A powerful pressure came down from the chariot, causing all the cultivators below to tremble in fear. It was as if there was a mountain pressing down on their heads. The chariot did not stop and directly entered the Forsaken Land of the Gods. There are quite a lot of people here. On a mountain peak outside the Forsaken Land of the Gods stood a young cultivator in white. This person was Gu Zhong, who had just arrived at the Forsaken Land of the Gods. He was a warrior, so he could restrain his aura. At this time, he was just like an ordinary person. Not a single trace of his aura leaked out. At this time, some big shots began to appear. They constantly drove their chariots into the forsaken land of the gods. Only these people had the ability to do so. One had to know that the forsaken land of the gods was a place without spiritual energy. These big shots carried a lot of things that could replenish their vitality, which was why they dared to drive their chariots into the forsaken land of the gods. If it was anyone else, they would not be able to withstand such consumption. This forsaken land of the gods is very strange, Gu Zhong muttered to himself. He looked at the barren land in front of him and suddenly felt a trace of uneasiness, which woke him up. Could it be that something ominous was about to happen? The cultivation of a fourth layer almighty was enough for Gu Zhong to protect himself. Even if he encountered a few half-step saints, he would still be able to escape even if he was not a match for them. Gu Zhong did not think too much about it. He directly walked down the mountain and headed towards the barren land that stretched as far as the eye could see. The forsaken land of the gods was a place that had been abandoned by the gods. There was no spiritual energy in it, so it was not suitable for any living thing to grow. There was only sand and stones, and no vegetation could be seen on the ground. The sudden appearance of such a place in the middle of a mountain that was full of vitality was very unexpected. All the vegetation in front of him suddenly disappeared. No one knew how this place was formed, because the forsaken land of the gods had existed since ancient times. No one was like Gu Zhong, who dared to enter the forsaken land of the gods alone. Only those powerful half-step saints dared to wander in the forsaken land of the gods alone. Even almighties had to team up with others before they dared to enter the forsaken land of the gods. At this time, there were already many teams that had entered the forsaken land of the gods. In a hilly area, a team of people was carefully advancing. Although there was no spiritual energy in the forsaken land of the gods, there were still dangers. There were all kinds of barriers here, and there were even all kinds of remnant laws of the world. These were the immortal marks left behind by those peerless existences in the distant past. Old Ming, this path can really lead to the ancient ruins, Chen Feng said with a smile. There were only 5 people in this team, but each of them had the cultivation of an almighty. The person walking in front of this team was a thin, dark-skinned old man in black clothes. At this time, a young cultivator in the team spoke. The old man was called Ming Mie, and he was a loose cultivator. He was good at observing the surroundings, so he could determine if there were any dangerous factors in the nearby area based on the terrain and the distribution of the spiritual energy in the surroundings. Humph, if you don't believe me, then scram. Old man Ming Mie couldn't help but roll his eyes when he saw that the young cultivator actually dared to question him. Taoist Tianzong, you should speak less. We trust Taoist Ming Mie. A dark-skinned, middle-aged man unhappily looked at the young cultivator and said. The young cultivator saw that the dark-skinned man had spoken, so he didn't say anything else. He couldn't just scram like this. He had already come all the way here. If he were to leave just because of old man Ming Mie's words, then that would be too much of a loss. Who is that person? At this time, the young man called Tianzong suddenly noticed a white-clothed person standing on a hill in front of them. Everyone, be careful. Old man Ming Mie lowered his voice and said to the people behind him. They had to be careful if they met anyone in this place. It should be known that this was not a good place. Not only did he fail to steal the Qilin horse, but he also angered Fairy Huayun. Fairy Huayun was a great perfection half-saint while Gu Zhong was only a 3rd heavenly layer almighty at that time. He wasn't a match for Fairy Huayun at all. He was beaten half to death by Fairy Huayun and luckily escaped. From then on, Gu Zhong was determined to subdue this little pepper. Rumble. Just as Gu Fei and Fairy Huayun were in pursuit, a thunderous sound came from the depths of the forsaken land of the gods. The entire forsaken land of the gods could feel the ground trembling. Those guys have made their move. Fairy Huayun was shocked and stopped chasing Gu Zhong. Her expression changed several times before she finally gritted her teeth and gave up on chasing Gu Zhong. She drove the war chariot and rushed into the depths of the forsaken land of the gods. Gu Zhong looked in the direction where Fairy Huayun disappeared and was shocked. The ancient ruins in the depths of the forsaken land of the gods seemed to have undergone some changes. An incomparably ancient aura came from the depths of the forsaken land of the gods. Swoosh! Guzhong also took large strides and chased after Fairy Hua Yun. At this time, an ancient city was floating in the air in the depths of the forsaken land of the gods. It was a dilapidated ancient city with pitch-black walls that had long collapsed. Most of the houses in the ancient city had also collapsed. It was a city that seemed to have gone through a fierce battle. On the buildings of the city, there were marks left by swords, spears, and halberds. It was hard to imagine how such a great battle happened back then. After the battle, even the ancient city was almost destroyed. Even if it wasn't destroyed, the ancient city would have become a ruin now. At this time, the ancient city that was floating in the air suddenly vibrated. It was as if a peerless beast was attacking the seal. Many cultivators appeared around the ancient city. Some big shots stopped in the air with war chariots, emitting a powerful pressure that shocked all directions. Those who could come here were not simple. Boom. At this time, someone made a move. A war chariot directly rushed towards the ancient city that was floating in the air. A powerful pressure instantly erupted, causing the void to tremble. Humph, someone sneered. Then, a tall man whose body was emitting a dazzling divine light appeared in the sky and rushed towards the war chariot. Taoist Wu Shang, what's the meaning of this? Are you trying to go against my Zixuan sect? On the war chariot, a middle-aged man wearing bronze armor and holding a divine spear said coldly. He stared at the man shrouded in divine light as a chilling, killing intent emitted from his body. Zixuan sect, what a great reputation. The middle-aged man called Wu Shang sneered. Clearly, he did not place the Zixuan sect in his eyes at all. Are you vagrant cultivators tired of living? At this moment, a melodious voice suddenly rang out. A masked woman dressed in black walked over from afar with a black lotus in her hand, pressing towards Taoist Wu Shang. Black Lotus Holy Maiden. When Taoist Wu Shang saw the black-robed woman, his eyes couldn't help but narrow. Humph. Could it be that you 10 great sects want to monopolize the divine stash? Just as the Black Lotus Holy Maiden walked out, a shocking demonic chi suddenly rushed out from the nearby mountains. A great demon brought with it a torrential demonic chi and rushed over. Demonic chi surged into the sky near the ancient city as a murderous aura enveloped the entire world. Demon race. The Black Lotus Saintess and the Purple Profound Sect's divine general were both shocked. Even the demon clan had come, which made them feel a lot of pressure. It must be known that in the southern region of Buzhou, there were still quite a few powerful great demons. That's right, it's impossible for the 10 great sects to monopolize the divine stash. Just as the great demon arrived, an eerie voice rang out. A ball of ghostly chi wrapped around an illusory figure. It flew over from the sky and landed in front of the ancient city. Chapter 1973. The ancient city floated in the dusky void. It was in a complete state of ruin. There weren't any intact buildings. It was a city that was almost completely destroyed. But at this moment, there was a vast power in the ancient city that allowed the city to float in the sky. Ancient Tao runes could be vaguely seen on the dilapidated city. This was an ancient city that had been left behind since the primordial era. There were runes of an ancient sovereign on it, which was why it could be preserved until now. One must know that this ancient city was sealed by the sovereign's runes. Some people guessed that the runes of the ancient sovereign would completely dissipate in the near future, which was why this ancient city was discovered by the people of the Black Lotus Sacred Ground. There might be a sovereign's divine treasury sealed inside the ancient city, which was why the various powers were rushing over, wanting a share of the loot. Your underworld's hands have stretched too far. The appearance of the Tao of Ghosts made all the cultivators present nervous. Almost all the Tao of Ghosts on Buzhou ancestral planet came from the abyssal underworld. The abyssal underworld was very powerful. Even the Ziyun clan and the Huangjing clan of the northern lands were afraid of them. This primordial ruin belongs to my underworld. You guys can scram now. The newcomer was very domineering, directly telling the 10 great sects and the Buzhou demonic race to scram. This shocked everyone. One must know that the 10 great sects of the south had the backing of the Ziyun clan. The Buzhou demonic race was a superpower on par with the abyssal underworld. In the distant past, There was also a sovereign in the Buzhou demonic race. What an arrogant fellow. I hope you have the strength to back up your arrogance. At this moment, a white-haired old man with a ruddy complexion walked out. He held a dragon-head staff and wore straw sandals. His entire body was shrouded in immortal light, exuding a profound aura. Earth Immortal Elder. Everyone couldn't help but be shocked when they saw this old man. This person was the second in command of the South Pole Immortal Manor, the younger brother of the South Pole Immortal Manor's master, Earth Immortal Elder. The South Pole Immortal Manor was a mysterious power in the depths of the Antarctic Sea. There were rumors that the master of the South Pole Immortal Manor might be a saint who had sealed himself. The means of ancient saints were unimaginable. Through sealing themselves, they could live for an eternity. They were true supreme antiques. Outsiders are not allowed to interfere in the affairs of the southern region. The experts of the 10 great sects of the South pressed towards the Ghost Dao expert together. Their powerful auras caused the entire heaven and earth to tremble. The desolate killing aura was suffocating. That expert from the Nether God Palace was incomparably shocked. He never would have thought that the 10 great sects of the South and the South Pole Immortal Palace would ally together to expel him. Rumble. Just as the group of experts was closing in on that Ghost Dao expert, the ancient city in front of them suddenly trembled. Ancient Dao patterns continuously emerged from the dilapidated city, and the power of the supreme Dao patterns was dissipating. After countless years, from the ancient times to the current era, the sovereign Dao runes on the ancient ruins were finally about to disappear. The power condensed by the patterns of Dao was fading away, and beams of divine light kept rushing out from the ancient city. Then, they dissipated into the most primordial natural powers, disappearing into the void. At this moment, all the cultivators could sense the changes that had occurred in the forsaken land of the gods. How is this possible? Everyone was incomparably shocked. Spiritual Qi actually appeared in the forsaken land of the gods. The power condensed by the supreme Dao patterns dissipated into the void, turning into spiritual Qi. Such a change in the forsaken land of the gods caused everyone to be indescribably shocked. Could it be that the reason why there was no trace of spiritual Qi in the forsaken land of the gods was because of this ancient city? Clang. The sound of metal clanging rang out from within the ancient city. This caused everyone to be pleasantly surprised. Perhaps there really was something sealed within the ancient city. Swish. At this moment, the Ghost Dao expert took advantage of this great opportunity and directly soared into the sky, turning into a plume of black smoke as he charged towards the ancient city. Stop him! The experts from the 10 great sects immediately unleashed their respective great techniques to attack the black smoke. They wanted to stop it, but the black smoke was extremely fast. It dodged all the attacks one after another. Just as the black smoke was about to rush into the ancient city, a white figure suddenly appeared in front of the black smoke. He then opened his palm and directly slapped towards the black smoke. A powerful force blocked everything in front of it. The black smoke had no choice but to stop. After that, a pale white palm slapped out from within the black ghost Qi. The powerful mysterious energy caused the void to solidify. Bang! 2 huge palms fiercely clashed against each other. The Ghost Dao expert was sent flying a few hundred feet away, while the white-robed man only took a few steps back. What? The Ghost Dao expert turned pale with fright. His opponent's combat strength was unparalleled, especially the strength of his physical body. It was even stronger than his own. This was truly unbelievable. This wasn't the combat strength that a level 4 Almighty should have. After receiving the palm of the Ghost Dao expert, Gu Zhong only felt a wave of cold air coming from his opponent's palm. He couldn't help but shiver. What a powerful, mysterious, ghost energy, Gu Zhong muttered to himself. He had just arrived and intercepted the Ghost Dao expert who was rushing towards the ancient city. However, his opponent's cultivation was much higher than his. Gu Zhong only managed to repel him by catching him off guard. This kind of thing could only happen once. His opponent wouldn't make the same mistake again. You still dare to come here? On the flaming cloud chariot, Goddess Hua Yunli Ruoxue immediately frowned when she saw Gu Zhong. A murderous aura emanated from her body. Goddess Hua Yun was about to attack Gu Zhong, But Gu Zhong had already retreated. He didn't want to fight her. This made Li Ruoshua's teeth itch, but she couldn't do anything to Gu Zhong. Gu Zhong cultivated the 8 desolation steps. He had the world's fastest speed. Although he was only a level 4 almighty, with the 8 desolation steps, even a half-saint or a great completion half-saint wouldn't be able to stop him. Roar! At this moment, the Ghost Dao expert roared at the sky. If it wasn't for Gu Zhong's appearance, he would have long entered the ancient city. He completely hated Gu Zhong. However, some of the experts from the 10 great sects rode on their chariots, while others approached step by step. They had already surrounded the Ghost Dao expert. Do you really want to go against my Hades palace? Do you know the consequences of doing so? The Ghost Dao expert said sternly. Chapter 1974. Hades Palace. What a great name. Just as everyone was getting closer to the Ghost Dao expert, a voice rang out from afar. Afterwards, a woman wearing golden armor and a golden mask walked out. The Gold Clan. Seeing this woman, everyone was startled. She gave off a sharp metal element aura. That was a characteristic of the Huangjin family. At this time, the people from the Supreme Powers also walked out. Just like that, the 10 great sects of the South seemed to be at a disadvantage. It should be known that any one of these Supreme Powers would be enough to give them a headache. I didn't expect the Golden Goddess to personally come. Amidst the ghost chi, the faint and incorporeal figure spoke these words. What? Everyone was shocked. They never expected that the person from the Gold Clan would be the Golden Goddess, whose name had shaken the North in recent years. The Golden Goddess was a genius of the Gold Clan. She had only been on the path for a few hundred years, but she had already become the number one of the younger generation in the North. At this time, there were more than 10 experts gathered in front of the ancient city. None of them were weak. Even the weakest was a half-saint. Ziyunxiao actually didn't come. The Golden Goddess glanced at everyone and then said, she was wearing a golden mask, so no one could see her true appearance. However, her tone carried a trace of disdain. Ziyunxiao had been defeated by Gu Fei. He had already been punished by Zisu to face the wall for 1,000 years. However, not many people in the cultivation world knew about this. During this 1,000 years, everything that happened in the outside world had nothing to do with Ziyunxiao. Haha, Golden Goddess, why are you looking for my brother? Could it be that you've taken a fancy to him and want to be my sister-in-law? Suddenly, a loud laugh rang out. At some point, a girl in purple had appeared in the sky. She was smiling at the Golden Goddess. You're courting death. The Golden Goddess was furious. She directly slammed her palm towards the purple-clothed girl. Powerful metal energy instantly condensed into a golden hand that enveloped the purple-clothed girl. The mighty power of the metal element shocked everyone. No one expected the Golden Goddess to attack just like that. By the time someone reacted, the golden hand had already reached the top of the purple-clothed girl's head. The vast and mighty energy fluctuations coming from the golden palm shook the heavens and earth. It was extremely terrifying. Hee, others might be afraid of you, Golden Goddess, but I, Ziyun am not. As the purple-clothed girl spoke, she formed a sword finger with her right hand. Using her finger as a sword, she pierced the golden hand. Buzz. The sword chime rang out and a purple sword aura shot out from the finger of the girl's right hand. The chilling sword aura tore through the void and collided with the huge golden hand. The incomparably sharp sword chi was indestructible, and it actually directly cut a large hole in the palm of the golden hand. Shwa. Ziyun soared into the sky and rushed out of the hole in the palm of the golden hand. Seeing this scene, everyone was shocked. The Ziyun clan was incredible. Ziyunxiao was already heaven-defying, and now, even Ziyunxiao's sister was a heaven-defying existence. Someone from the Ziyun clan finally came. The people of the 10 great clans of the South felt extremely complicated. This little Princess Ziyun was not Ziyunxiao. She was a mischievous girl. It's impolite not to reciprocate. Eat my sword. Ziyun did not take out her divine sword. Instead, she continued to form sword fingers with her right hand. Then, she stabbed at the Golden Goddess. Her sword fingers vibrated continuously, and 10 rays of purple sword light shot out in a row, piercing towards the golden goddess. The powerful ripples of the sword aura caused the world to lose its color. Humph! The golden goddess did not move at all. When the 10 rays of light shot out, a ball of golden light suddenly surged out from her body. With a swoosh, it enveloped her. Bang! 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 The 10 rays of light all hit the golden divine light around the golden goddess and exploded. The extremely sharp sword chi actually could not penetrate the layer of golden light around the golden goddess. Hee, the golden goddess does have some ability after all. Ziyuner did not attack again. She knew that it would not be so easy to determine a victor between her and the golden goddess. Greetings, princess. The experts of the 10 great clans hurriedly bowed to Ziyuner. After all, the 10 great clans were only the external forces of the Ziyun clan. They were not the core forces of the clan. Even the leaders of the 10 great clans had to be respectful when they saw Ziyuner. Humph, stay away from me. I can't be happy when I see you. Ziyuner was displeased when she saw the people of the 10 great clans. These people were very boring. They were all respectful and careful when they saw her. It was not fun at all. The people of the 10 great clans could not help but look at each other. They did not know why the little princess did not like them. However, even though they didn't know the reason, the people from the 10 great sects still retreated. Is it the little princess of the Ziyun clan? At this moment, a young man surrounded by demonic chi walked over. He had a feather fan and a silk handkerchief. His eyebrows were like swords and his eyes were like stars. He was definitely a handsome man. Who are you? Ziyun could not help but frown when she saw this person. She disliked this person for no reason. Even she did not know why. I am Yao Wuxia. I would like to be friends with Princess Yuner. What do you think, Master Yuner? Yao Wuxia waved his fan and said with a smile. Chapter 1975. Yao Wuxia was a demon lord. Even within the Buzhou demon race, he was one of the top figures. But now, he was being called a rooster. This made him furious. Ziyuner, you're going overboard. Yao Wuxia's face flushed and paled when he heard her calling him a rooster. He was about to go crazy. Hee, how am I going overboard? You're just a rooster. Ziyuner pointed at Yao Wuxia innocently and laughed. Shut up. Yao Wuxia couldn't take it anymore. Even though she was the little princess of the Ziyun clan, he was no pushover. So what if it was the Ziyun clan? He had the entire demon race behind him. Bam! Yao Wuxia made his move. A huge green hand flew out from the back of his head and grabbed at Ziyuner. A powerful demonic energy exploded. Io, sister goddess, save me. Ziyuner jumped in fright when she saw Yao Wuxia making his move. She hurriedly ran towards the golden goddess. Seeing this, Yao Wuxia did not stop. The green hand continued to grab at Ziyuner. This was a hand that was condensed from the energy of his soul. The hand enveloped the entire area, including the space in front of Yao Wuxia. You little brat. When the golden goddess saw Ziyuner running towards her, how could she not know what this little brat was planning? However, this little brat was very lovable. Swoosh! A golden divine whip appeared in the golden goddess's right hand. Then, she raised the divine whip in her hand and lashed it at the green hand that was coming at her. Like a golden bolt of lightning, it ruthlessly swept across the huge green hand. The powerful force actually directly swept the huge green hand into two, and then it dissipated in the void. After the green hand was destroyed, Yao Wuxia's face flushed red. He stumbled back a few steps as blood seeped out from the corner of his mouth. Haha, sister goddess is so powerful. Rooster, you're out of luck. Ziyuner had already hidden behind the golden goddess. She clapped her hands and laughed. Golden goddess, what do you want? Is your gold family really not afraid of starting a war? Yao Wuxia took in a few deep breaths before he regained his breath. He then turned to the golden goddess and asked sternly. As the saying went, one would know if one was an expert the moment they made their move. This golden goddess didn't seem to be someone with an undeserved reputation. What? You want to use the entire demon race to suppress me? I'm so scared, said the golden goddess disdainfully. The divine whip in her hand was flickering with golden light. Golden Tao patterns were faintly discernible on the body of the whip. Holy object. When Yao Wuxie sensed the divine whip in the hands of the golden goddess, he could not help but widen his eyes in shock. Shua. The golden goddess swung her whip once again. The golden divine whip in her hand turned into a golden lightning as it shot towards Yao Wuxie. The golden divine light tore through the heavens and earth. Yao Wuxie's shock was no small matter. The long whip in the other party's hands was a saint weapon. This was something that was refined by a saint and possessed immense power. No matter how strong Yao Wuxie was, he would not dare to take a blow from this golden divine whip head-on. He wanted to dodge, but the long whip was extremely agile as though it had a life of its own. With a swoosh, it coiled around him. Roar! The long whip tightened. The strength of the whip caused the bones in Yao Wuxie's body to crack. A few of his ribs were broken as he spat out fresh blood. Spare me. With this mighty demon lord finally knew what fear was. The divine whip in the hands of the golden goddess was truly a flawless saint weapon. The golden goddess did not show any mercy. She exerted strength in her hand and whipped the whip. Shua! A golden light flashed and a tragic cry rang out. Yao Wuxie's body was broken into multiple pieces as he fell to the ground. Fresh blood splattered everywhere. Looking at this scene, everyone was stunned. That was a demon lord. She killed him just like that. Roar! A ball of green divine light rushed out from Yao Wuxie's body. He roared and wanted to escape, but his primordial spirit was already covered by a layer of golden light. Even without the golden goddess, the layer of golden light on Yao Wuxie's primordial spirit was enough to destroy his soul. Bang! The ball of green divine light that shot up into the sky exploded, turning into a green firework. It gave off a final burst of divine light before disappearing into the void. A demon lord that dominated the world of cultivation was destroyed just like that. Sister, you're so fierce. Seeing this, Ziyuner could not help but stick out her tongue and shrink her neck. She was extremely shocked as well. One should know that Yao Wuxie was no ordinary demon. Am I fierce? The golden goddess laughed. Her voice was extremely calm. Swoosh! Without any warning, Ziyuner suddenly shot up into the sky like a startled bird and hid far away in the sky. Seeing this, the golden goddess could not help but be stunned. This little brat was really too cunning. She had not even made a move, and he had already escaped. Yao Wuxie was dead. He died in the hands of the golden goddess. The entire place was silent. No one said a word. At this time, a person quietly came nearby. It was a young man in black. This young man did not emit any aura at all. He was just like an ordinary person, inconspicuous. However, when Gu Zhong saw this man in black, he was extremely excited. He hurriedly rushed towards the man in black. Very soon, he arrived in front of the man and bowed respectfully. Master, Gu Fei nodded and looked at Gu Zhong from head to toe. He said, "You have gained quite a lot in these 3 years." Gu Zhong's cultivation was no secret in Gu Fei's eyes. He could see it with a single glance. There was a huge gap between the 4th and 5th heavenly layer. If Gu Zhong could successfully break through to the 5th heavenly layer, he would be the ruler of all heavenly layer cultivators. He would truly be invincible among his peers. I didn't expect you to come as well. At this time, a sharp gaze swept towards Gu Fei. Who is this person? Why is the golden goddess paying so much attention to him? Someone followed the golden goddess's gaze and saw Gu Fei and his disciple. That person, it's him. Someone recognized Gu Fei. 3 years ago, Gu Fei fought Ziyuner. That battle shocked everyone and attracted countless cultivators to watch, who in the southern region of Buzhou had not heard of Gu Fei's name. We came for nothing? Chapter 1976. The arrival of experts that could truly intimidate everyone made the people of the 10 great sects of the South feel a great pressure. There were some people among the 10 great sects that could contend against these people, but they wouldn't easily come out of seclusion. Go ask the ancestor. Fire God Palace's Fairy Hua Yun transmitted her voice to another Fire God Palace's elder. Only when the cult ancestor came out of the mountain could he compete with these people for the ancient divine treasury. The elder from the fire god palace was a little hesitant. It should be known that consulting the sect ancestor was not a small matter. Waking up the sleeping sect ancestor was a big risk. Once the ancestor was enraged, everyone would suffer. Go if I tell you to. Goddess Huiyun was displeased at the elder's hesitation. Yes, the elder could only accept the order and quickly leave. Let's see how arrogant you people can be when the ancestor comes. Goddess Huiyun was very calm. She didn't look for Gu Zhong because he was the disciple of the god of slaughter. No wonder he dared to provoke the 10 great sections. The chariot retreated into the distance. Many people noticed the chariot's movements. The 10 great sects thought of the goddess's intentions and quietly retreated as well. Some of them sent people to ask for help from their sections. However, not all of the 10 great sects had super old-timers. For example, the Heavenless sect was relatively weak. After Gu Fei's battle, the Skyless sect declined even more. Its territory had been reduced by a third. Out of the 11 cities, 3 had been occupied by other sections. With the Skyless sect's current strength, it would be extremely difficult to take back the 3 cities unless they asked the Ziyun clan for help. However, the Ziyun clan rarely paid attention to the enmity between the 10 great sections. The Skyless sect also sent people over, but they retreated even further. They were here to try their luck and didn't dare to get involved. Master, this woman seems to have her eyes on you. At this moment, Gu Zhong, who was standing next to Gu Fei, could clearly sense the powerful battle intent coming from the Golden Goddess. This woman from the Golden family seemed to really want to fight his master. Ignore them. Our goal is only the ancient god treasury. Gu Fei didn't respond to the Golden Goddess. He still didn't release any powerful aura. He was just like an ordinary mortal. Return to the natural state. Everyone naturally knew that this Gu Fei was not an ordinary person who knew nothing. On the contrary, he was a famous god of slaughter. This guy's fame was earned through killing. Even Ziyun Shao was defeated by him. It should be noted that Ziyun Shao was publicly acknowledged as the strongest among the younger generation in the southern region of the ancestral star of Buzhou, but he was defeated by Gu Fei. Currently, there were only a few young experts in the entire cultivation world of Buzhou ancestral star who could compete with a heaven-defying figure like Gu Fei. The Golden Goddess was one of them. Since when did the god of slaughter, Gu Fei, become a coward? The Golden Goddess stood on top of a barren mountain and glanced at Gu Fei with her golden eyes. Although they were a dozen miles apart, her gaze seemed to be able to see through Gu Fei. Humph, if you want to court death, I'll grant your wish. Gu Fei didn't have any protective feelings for the fairer sex. If the Golden Goddess continued to provoke him, he wouldn't mind teaching this descendant of a supreme a lesson. The Golden Goddess was infuriated when she heard this. However, this wasn't the time to fight with Gu Fei, because the ancient god treasury was about to appear. What a pity. I really wanted to see these two fight. Up in the sky, the naive Ziyun had a look of disappointment in her eyes. Gu Fei had actually defeated her big brother. She found it hard to believe. Her elder brother, Ziyun Shao, was the strongest among the younger generation in the southern region of Buzhou. Is this fellow really that strong? Ziyun stared at Gu Fei and narrowed her spirited eyes. Rumble. At that moment, the ancient city in front of them started to collapse. Countless supreme Dao patterns gradually dissipated, and the power condensed by the Dao patterns returned to heaven and earth. The spiritual energy in the entire forsaken land of the gods started to recover. Everyone could clearly feel that the density of the spiritual energy in the forsaken land of the gods, which originally didn't have a trace of spiritual energy, was actually rising rapidly. As long as the spiritual energy of heaven and earth existed in the forsaken land of the gods, it wouldn't be a barren land. The ancient city had existed for an unknown number of years. The city was collapsing from the outside. Pieces of soil fell from the sky and turned into dust before dissipating into the void. After losing the support of the supreme Dao patterns, the ancient city was completely collapsing. It turned into dust and completely disappeared from this world, leaving not a single trace behind. As the ancient city continued to collapse, The fluctuations in the center of the ancient city became stronger and stronger. From time to time, rays of divine light would rush out from the center of the ancient city. The aura of life. How is this possible? At this moment, everyone was indescribably shocked. They could sense a weak ripple of life coming from the depths of the ancient city. The aura of life had actually appeared in the ancient ruins. This caused everyone to feel incredulous. One must know that this ancient ruins had existed for countless years. What kind of life could live for so many eras? Even honorable beings and saints disappeared in the end. Even existences that were said to be eternal were annihilated in the endless passage of time. Rumble. As the ancient city continued to disintegrate, the aura of life grew stronger and stronger. It was as if something alive was about to be born from the ancient city. Everyone was incomparably nervous. No one knew what kind of creature would appear. One must know that this was an ancient creature that was incomparably ancient. Could it be that there really is an ancient creature sealed in the city? Someone exclaimed. This didn't seem impossible. However, when they remembered that this was a creature sealed by an honorable being from the ancient past, everyone couldn't help but be shocked. An existence that required an honorable being to personally seal was at least a terrifying existence that could contend against an honorable being. A rebirth that defies the heavens. The Ghost Dao expert was incomparably excited. He seemed to know something about this ancient city. This ancient ruins was a sealed land. An honorable being from the ancient past had sealed the entire ancient city. Honorable being was an invincible existence in the 9 heavens and 10 earths. Since an honorable being personally took action, the sealed existence couldn't possibly still be alive. However, right now, there was a fluctuation of life coming from the ancient city. Chapter 1977. The ancient city was still collapsing. The power of the sovereign's Tao pattern had completely collapsed and was gradually dissipating. Rumble. The entire ancient city had shrunk to 2/3 of its original size. In the depths of the ancient city, the aura of life gradually became stronger as rays of divine light rushed out. Everyone watched this scene anxiously. Is this a creature from the ancient era? Gu Fei muttered to himself. He couldn't help but think of the bone egg he obtained in the depths of the soaring dragon ancestral star's 100,000 mountain range. That was an egg formed after the primordial divine turtle underwent nirvana. That turtle egg was kept in Gu Fei's inner world and nurtured with the life essence of the divine spring of life. One should know that the primordial divine turtle's life force was very strong, let alone the primordial divine turtle. But even so, the turtle egg formed after the primordial divine turtle underwent nirvana still had extremely weak life force after so many years. This in itself was a miracle. However, it was different now. In the constantly collapsing ancient city, there was actually a life from the ancient era that was about to break the seal and come into the world. This was different from the primordial divine turtle undergoing nirvana. This was a real life from the ancient era that was about to come into the world. Master, this? Gu Zhong was extremely shocked. As the ancient city continued to collapse, the terrifying existence in the city emitted waves of energy. A terrifying murderous aura shrouded the sky above the ancient city. Rays of divine light soared into the sky and dissipated in the void. This was the dissipation of the sovereign's sealing power. Within the divine light, there was a chilling aura. It was as though a peerless demon was lurking there and could jump out at any time. How is this the primordial divine treasury? Someone discovered that something was wrong. There was indeed something sealed in the ancient city, but it wasn't the legendary primordial divine treasury. Instead, there was a terrifying existence sealed within. Roar. A deep roar came from the depths of the ancient city. It wasn't loud, but the penetrating power was very strong. All the cultivators present could hear it clearly. Someone was dumbfounded. There was really a terrifying existence sealed within the ancient city. What is that? The ancient city continued to shrink. The city was collapsing, falling off, and turning into dust before returning to the world. At this moment, a figure appeared at the center of the ancient city. Although it was just an illusory figure, it gave off an extremely savage feeling. An ancient creature? All the cultivators stared at the silhouette. They soon realized that the silhouette was not a human, but a member of a different race. It was a minotaur with a human body. Roar! The ancient creature with the head of a bull and the body of a human roared at the sky. Terrifying sound waves spread out, and countless cracks appeared on the city that was already on the verge of collapse. Clang! The sound of metal chains clashing against each other rang out. The ox-headed celestial being that was sealed here was struggling. His body was coiled by numerous black chains. It was these unassuming black chains that bound the Minotaur to the inside of the ancient city. Humans. A powerful divine will rippled out from the Minotaur's body as a voice rang out in everyone's hearts. This voice was filled with killing intent. Rumble. The Minotaur struggled violently, causing the entire world to shake. It was as terrifying as an ancient god. Open for me. The Minotaur roared furiously, using all the energy in his body. A terrifying pressure that looked down on the world appeared in the sky. The Minotaur's energy exploded without holding anything back. Boom. After an earth-shattering explosion, the rest of the city instantly exploded. The Minotaur's body was devoured by this energy. Terrifying energy swept out in all directions. The energy rippled down to the ground, causing sand and stones to fly everywhere. The sun and moon lost their radiance. Is it going to be born? Upon seeing this, Gu Fei's eyes could not help but narrow as his expression became extremely solemn. The strength of the Minotaur was not to be underestimated. It was impossible for him to die in the explosion just now. At this moment, a figure rushed out from the billowing dust. Let's go. When the people from the 10 great sects saw that there were no ancient treasures in the ancient city, they were extremely disappointed and immediately retreated. This Minotaur was not someone they could deal with. Puff. The Minotaur fiercely exhaled. 2 puffs of white smoke came out from his nose. Whoosh. After the Minotaur panted a few times, he suddenly stretched out his hand and grabbed a chariot nearby. After that, he punched the chariot and shattered it. Flesh and blood mixed with the fragments of the chariot, splattering everywhere. An incomparably powerful existence was directly destroyed by the Minotaur's punch. What? Everyone was extremely shocked when they saw this. This Minotaur was too powerful. After all, those who could drive chariots here were all important figures in the great sections. What did I just see? An elder of the Zishuan sect died just like that. Everything seemed a bit illusory, giving people a feeling that it was unreal. Whoosh! At this moment, a golden lightning suddenly appeared and entangled the Minotaur. It was extremely sharp. Especially on the whip, there was a saint's power faintly appearing. The golden goddess made her move. The Minotaur's body was entangled by several black chains. He grabbed the chains on his body and waved them. The chains immediately turned into 2 rays of black light and went towards the golden goddess whip. Clang. The sound of the chains colliding resounded continuously. The golden divine whip lashed at the chains, and the powerful force sent them flying. Whoosh! The golden whip immediately entangled the Minotaur's body. Die! The golden goddess pulled her right hand. She wanted to kill this Minotaur the same way she killed Yawuxia. However, this time, she was wrong. She only felt that her hand was heavy, and she couldn't move the divine whip in her hand. She was truly shocked. Then, the golden goddess felt her hand shake. The whip in her hand was actually knocked out of her hand and fell into the Minotaur's hand. What? The golden goddess never thought that someone would actually grab her whip with their bare hands and snatch it away. This is an ancient Minotaur. Chapter 1978. An Ox Head in a Human Body. This was the legendary ancient Ox Demon clan. This Ox Demon had been sealed in the ancient city by a supreme. Even though it was extremely weak, it was still extremely terrifying. It could easily kill peak experts. One of the pinnacle experts of the Purple Profound sect was killed by the Ox Demon's fist. Swish! With a flash of golden light, the golden whip in the golden goddess hand flew out. It was actually snatched away by the Ox Demon as if it didn't require any effort at all. The golden goddess was extremely shocked. She hurriedly retreated. Everyone couldn't help but be astonished. After all, The divine whip in the golden goddess's hand was a flawless saint artifact. It was extremely powerful. Previously, the golden goddess had used this divine whip to annihilate the demon lord, Yao Wuxia. Yao Wuxia was a demon lord, and his cultivation base had already reached the sage-to-be realm. An artifact refined by a saint. The ox demon looked at the golden divine whip in his hand. His eyes immediately lit up. He was lacking a weapon, so this divine whip was perfect for him. However, the golden divine whip was imprinted by an ancestor of the Huang family. Outsiders couldn't use it. However, this ox demon was indeed extraordinary. Dao seals rushed out of his glabella and directly imprinted themselves on the golden divine whip. He wanted to use his own Dao seal to erase the Dao seal of the golden divine whip's original owner. What? The golden goddess couldn't help but be shocked when she saw that the ox demon wanted to erase the imprints of the original owner of the golden divine whip. After all, the golden divine whip was an important treasure of the Huang family. In ancient times, there weren't many existences that could cultivate to the level of a saint. Saints were invincible existences in ancient times. Items refined by saints were also very rare. Among them, flawless saint artifacts were as rare as phoenix feathers and Qilin horns. If the ox demon really erased the imprints on the divine whip, then the divine whip would be refined by him. The golden goddess absolutely wouldn't allow such a thing to happen. Die! The golden goddess roared and directly attacked. She stretched out her hands, and 10 rays of golden divine light shot out from her 10 fingers. They were like 10 golden heavenly swords that pierced towards the demonic ox. Every beam of golden divine light shattered the void, leaving behind a pitch-black spatial crack wherever it passed. Yes, the ox demon raised his head fiercely. His eyes shone with a dazzling light. He was clearly enraged. This little girl actually dared to disturb him. The seal on the golden divine whip was left behind by a saint. The bull demon had been sealed for countless years and was extremely weak. He could not erase the seal on the divine whip in a short time. I'll refine this whip after I kill you. Could it be that this ox demon still had the cultivation and combat strength of a saint? That was impossible. If this ox demon had the cultivation of a saint, the world would have reacted long ago. At this moment, there was no time for the golden goddess to think too much. She opened her mouth and a divine pearl flew out. Then, it rapidly enlarged. Rumble. A golden sun appeared between the heavens and the earth. It emitted boundless metal elemental power and smashed towards the ox demon that had opened its mouth to suck in the pearl. The great power that emanated from the golden sun caused the entire world to tremble. This is pure metal elemental power radiated from the golden sun, intimidating the surroundings. There was a trace of saintly aura lingering on the sun. Another perfect saint artifact. The cultivators who were watching the battle were shocked. The golden goddess actually had 2 perfect saint artifacts on her. It was truly shocking. However, when they remembered that the Gold Clan was the descendant of the Golden Supremacy, they understood. After all, the Golden Supremacy was an extreme saint. At this moment, the ox demon was finally moved. The dazzling golden sun smashed towards it. It was as if there was really a sun falling from the sky. Chapter 1979. Boom! The golden sun fell from the sky, destroying everything in every direction. It directly smashed the primordial devil ox into the shattered void. With the sun as the center, everything within a 10-mile radius was destroyed. The earth was sinking and the void was being destroyed. This was practically the end of the world. Everyone was dumbfounded by the scene before them. Damn! Gu Fei couldn't help but be moved when he saw this scene from a distant peak. He could see that the power of the golden goddess attack had been limited to a certain range. Otherwise, let alone a 10-mile radius, even 100 miles of land would have been destroyed. The power of a perfect saint artifact was comparable to a saint's attack. If she couldn't control this power, it would be a disaster. Fortunately, this was the forsaken land of the gods. If this had happened outside, who knew how many lives the golden goddess attack would have taken? That primordial devil ox should be dead now. What a pity for my divine whip. The golden goddess couldn't be happy because she had lost a perfect saint artifact. However, even if it was lost, it could still be found. Even if a perfect saint artifact was lost, a few of the super antiques of the Gold Clan could still use secret arts to summon it back. A perfect saint artifact was too precious and important. They couldn't afford to lose it. Thinking of this, the golden goddess was no longer as worried. As long as she returned to the clan and asked the ancestors for help, they could still summon the divine whip back. The Gold Clan was the descendant of a supreme. Their foundation was unimaginably deep. Rumble. The light emitted by the sun gradually weakened as the metal element divine energy converged. In the end, the sun turned into a dazzling golden pearl the size of a thumb and flew back to the golden goddess. The golden goddess swallowed the pearl in one gulp. She's using her own essence to nourish the saint artifact. When Gufei saw this, he immediately thought of this situation. The golden goddess wanted to use her own essence to nourish the orb day and night, using this kind of painstaking effort to refine the orb. It had to be said that although this method was a bit stupid, there didn't seem to be any better way to refine this saint artifact. The shattered void was rapidly repairing itself. The power of heaven and earth was very mysterious. As long as the balance of heaven and earth was not broken, the power of heaven and earth would repair the shattered void. Of course, once the balance of the world was broken, the power of the world would become chaotic. Moreover, the broken void would not automatically repair itself. Once the balance of the world was broken, it meant that the world was about to collapse. The shattered void was constantly reforming, but the primordial ox demon did not appear. Even the aura of the primordial ox demon had disappeared completely. Everyone heaved a sigh of relief when they saw that the shattered void was about to be completely repaired by the power of heaven and earth. That terrifying primordial ox demon might have really been killed by the golden goddess. However, just as the shattered void was about 100 feet away from being completely restored, a powerful and terrifying wave of energy surged out from the shattered void. What? When everyone sensed this fluctuation, they were all moved. How is this possible? How could he still be alive? All the cultivators were indescribably shocked. Boom. At that moment, there was a loud explosion and the void shook. A tall figure dashed out from the shattered void that had yet to be repaired. His murderous aura was shocking. This primordial ox demon is really strong. Gu Fei's eyes narrowed when he saw this. He realized that the primordial ox demon was not very strong, but his physical body was extremely strong. This was a genuine saint-level physical body. The golden goddess's attack had indeed sent the primordial ox demon into the chaos. However, no one had expected that the primordial ox demon would still be able to rush out from the chaos. Only a saint of the human race can kill me. At this moment, the primordial ox demon was in a sorry state. One of the horns on his head had already been blown off, leaving only the other horn. Blood was seeping out from the corner of his mouth. The golden goddess was extremely shocked. She knew very well the power of her golden soul pearl. Even a peak quasi-saint would not be able to withstand an attack from this saint artifact. You have successfully angered me. The primordial ox demon's voice rang in the golden goddess's mind. Die. Without saying anything else, the primordial ox demon made his move. His huge hand covered the entire sky as it slammed down on the golden goddess. A terrifying destructive force descended from the huge hand. The great power that erupted from the hand caused pitch-black spatial cracks to appear in the void of the entire world. These spatial cracks were of different sizes. Some were as small as a strand of hair and were almost invisible to the naked eye, while some were as huge as a mountain. They extended far into the sky and were extremely terrifying. The spectators were extremely nervous. Buzz. Just as the huge hand formed by the primordial ox demon was about to slam down, the golden goddess's body suddenly vibrated. Then, rays of sword radiance shot out from the golden goddess's body. Then, a scene that left everyone dumbfounded appeared. The golden goddess had actually turned into a peerless divine sword and faced the huge hand that was slamming down. Turning yourself into a Tao sword, Gu Fei was astonished to see the golden goddess actually use such a great technique. The golden goddess transformed herself into a sword and soared into the sky. She instantly collided with the huge hand that was slapping down from the sky. The extremely sharp divine sword displayed great power and directly pierced through the huge hand that the primordial ox demon had conjured. Roar! The primordial ox demon roared furiously at the sky. A violent aura spread in all directions. Bang! The golden goddess opened her mouth and spat out the golden essence pearl again. This time, the pearl did not turn into a golden sun. Instead, it directly smashed into the primordial ox demon's back. The powerful impact caused even the primordial ox demon to stagger and lose his footing. Master, the primordial ox demon's physical body seems to be very strong. Gu Zhong, who was standing behind Gu Fei on a mountain peak in the distance, said. The primordial ox demon's physical body was really strong. It could directly withstand an attack from a flawless holy item. No matter how strong he is still no match for the golden goddess. Gu Fei said calmly. What? Gu Zhong could not help but be shocked. Could it be that the golden goddess still had a trick up her sleeve? If that was really the case, the golden goddess was not stupid. As expected, the primordial ox demon suffered continuously in the following battle. Even the golden divine whip in his hand was snatched back by the golden goddess. Chapter 1980. In the forsaken land of the gods, the golden goddess was fighting the ancient ox demon powerhouse. The golden goddess was getting more and more courageous as she fought. She even showed signs of suppressing the ancient ox demon. How can this be? Everyone watching the battle was baffled. When the ox demon's powerhouse broke out of the seal, he was extremely powerful and suppressed the golden goddess. But now, the ox demon clan's powerhouse seemed to be gradually weakening. This change surprised everyone. Bang! The ancient ox demon powerhouse was sent flying thousands of meters away by the golden goddess. He roared in anger. This was the first time he had been sent flying by an opponent, so he was both shocked and furious. What's going on? Why can't I absorb the world essence chi? The ox demon emperor roared in his heart. He realized that the concentration of world essence chi in this area was actually very low. It was so low that it was negligible. An ancient race like him was naturally close to world essence chi. He could use the power of world essence chi with just a wave of his hand, and his power would never dry up. But now, the ox demon monarch of the ox demon clan was shocked to find that he couldn't absorb any spiritual energy from the outside world. Such a thing was absolutely unimaginable for an ancient living being like him. It should be known that world essence chi was abundant in the ancient era. It was precisely because of the abundance of world essence chi that the races of that era were extremely powerful. Some races could even absorb world essence chi the moment they were born. They were comparable to immortal essences. However, in the current era, the concentration of world essence chi could no longer be compared to the ancient era, especially in the forsaken land of the gods. The forsaken land of the gods was a strange place to begin with. There wasn't a trace of world essence chi here, so the ox demons couldn't replenish their yuan chi at all. The ancient races relied on world essence chi far more than the cultivators of the current era. What exactly is this place? The ancient ox demon emperor had already realized the strangeness of this place. There was almost no world essence chi, so his combat strength was greatly reduced. What was worse was that his yuan chi was constantly being consumed, but he couldn't replenish it at all. As a result, he gradually became weaker. On the other hand, the golden goddess naturally had many spirit herbs that could recover her essence energy. Although her essence energy was also being consumed, it would immediately recover after taking the spirit herbs. In this place, this Tauren will definitely lose. Gu Fei stood on the peak of the mountain. He already knew the result when he saw this scene. Although this ancient minotaur was powerful, this era was no longer the ancient era. At this point, some of the super old-timers realized what was going on. Shwa. The golden whip flickered and coiled around the minotaur like a snake. Then, the golden goddess appeared above the minotaur and spat out the golden spirit bead from her mouth towards the top of the minotaur's head. Boom! A golden pearl flew out of the golden goddess' mouth and instantly enlarged. It emitted a terrifying wave of metal elemental energy and descended towards the top of the Minotaur's head like a sun. Roar! The Minotaur struggled violently. He wanted to dodge, but his hands were already entangled by the divine whip. He could only watch as the ball of golden light smashed towards his head. The golden spirit bead was as heavy as a primordial divine mountain. It was a magic treasure refined from the essence of heaven and earth. The power of the golden spirit bead was unbelievably strong. Even the Minotaur was shaken by the golden spirit bead's attack. The golden divine whip was a sacred item. Even though the Minotaur was a powerhouse of the ancient era, he had been sealed for countless years, and his yuan qi had been greatly damaged. It was difficult for him to break the divine whip. His muscles were trembling, and his veins were popping up on his skin. The golden spirit bead had already pierced deep into his muscles and bound him tightly. If he had been at his peak, even a great perfection sacred weapon refined by a great perfection saint wouldn't have been able to do anything to him, let alone a divine whip refined by a saint. The Minotaur was extremely dissatisfied. He couldn't even deal with a little fellow who hadn't even become a saint yet. Boom! It was as if a golden sun had fallen from the sky. The ball of dazzling divine light that emitted the shocking power of metal slammed heavily on the top of the primordial demon emperor's head. This extremely ferocious smash directly knocked the Minotaur unconscious. His only remaining horn was also broken, and a bloody wound appeared on the top of his head. Bang! The Minotaur was like a meteorite that fell from the sky and smashed deep into the ground. The ground shook violently. Even the cultivators who were hundreds of miles away could feel the tremors under their feet. Even this can't kill this fellow. The golden goddess was really shocked. The physical body of this ancient race was really too strong. Even a sacred item could not compare to it. One must know that the golden spirit bead was refined from the essence of heaven and earth. The essence of heaven and earth was formed when the primordial world was formed. Yin and Yang evolved into the 5 elements. Although the golden spirit bead was only the size of a thumb, it was heavier than a mountain. It contained an endless amount of 5 elements golden essence qi. This was an immortal material. The golden spirit bead's grade was very high. After being refined by countless experts of the gold family, this divine bead already possessed the grade of a sacred item. Chapter 1981. The primordial Ox Demon Clan had once ruled a region in the primordial era. They were extremely powerful and were one of the largest clans in the primordial era. This Minotaur was definitely not simple for a supremacy to personally seal him. A supreme existence that had fallen long ago had come back to life. This was a different kind of rebirth. Moreover, this Minotaur seemed to have a secret technique that could restore his memories from his previous life. When the Minotaur was fighting the Golden Goddess, he used the Ox Demon Clan's secret technique to escape thousands of miles away. He needed to recuperate and recover his vitality before he could settle the score with these people. Swoosh! The Minotaur burrowed into the ground again. He needed to leave this place as soon as possible. When he was fighting the Golden Goddess just now, he sensed a few auras that were no weaker than the Golden Goddess. He was no match for these people now. The Minotaur was indeed a big shot from the primordial era. He retreated decisively so that he could make a comeback in the future and kill everyone who dared to attack him. A day later, a tall figure sat cross-legged in a valley in the mountains outside the forsaken land of the gods. There were specks of spiritual light in the valley. They were the visible spirit qi of heaven and earth. The spirit qi from all directions was gathering in the valley and entering the figure inside. It was a Minotaur wearing broken armor and covered in blood. The Minotaur was breathing in and out the spirit qi of heaven and earth. After he left the forsaken land of the gods, he found a place to recover his vitality. An obscure yet powerful aura lingered in the valley. It wasn't just the spirit qi of heaven and earth. Even the flowers and trees in the valley were overflowing with life essence and gathering towards the Minotaur. The Minotaur's wounds were healing rapidly. The primordial era's affinity with the spirit qi of heaven and earth was unmatched by any other race in the current world. They could directly convert the spirit qi of heaven and earth into their own vitality. This was what the Minotaur relied on. If they were outside the forsaken land of the gods, the Golden Goddess might not be his match. Just as the Minotaur was breathing in and out the spirit chi of heaven and earth, two figures appeared silently outside the valley. They were two young cultivators. "Master, the Minotaur is inside." One of the young cultivators glanced into the valley and said, "You stinking brat, how dare you doubt my tracking technique?" A cultivator who appeared even younger than the one who spoke up earlier spoke up. These two young cultivators who appeared outside the valley were none other than Gu Fei and his disciple. Gu Fei's tracking technique was quite good. He actually managed to chase them all the way here. "Master, should I go in and take a look?" Gu Zhong rubbed his head and said in an embarrassed tone. The spiritual energy in the valley seemed to be converging, but the spiritual energy fluctuations weren't very strong. "You're courting death if you go in," Gu Fei said to Gu Zhong with a grave expression. In just one day, the ox head in the valley had become so powerful that even he was moved. The more obscure a true expert's aura was, the more powerful they were. Although the ox-headed man was no longer who he was in the past in a sense, this did not hinder him from using the various techniques of the ox-demon race. There's actually such an existence in this world. Gu Zhong was well aware of his own strength. With his cultivation of the fourth heavenly layer, it would be difficult for him to fight against a half-sage, let alone the demonic ox-emperor in the valley. "Wait for me outside." After Gu Fei instructed Gu Zhong, he directly walked into the valley. That ox-head man really knows how to find a place. Flowers bloomed in the valley, and towering trees stood on the ground. Their huge canopies covered a large area. Who knew how many years these vines had been growing for? Each one of them was very long, and some were even thousands of meters long. They were lying between two trees. Surprisingly, after walking into the valley, Gu Fei couldn't hear any sounds of animals. The valley was terrifyingly silent. Only the rustling of the leaves could be heard when the mountain breeze blew. After passing through the forest, Gu Fei realized that the view in front of him had suddenly widened. And just as Gu Fei walked out of the forest, the ox-head man sitting on a huge rock suddenly sensed something and opened his eyes. Two rays of light shot out from the ox-head man's eyes, filled with killing intent. Swoosh! Just as the ox-head man stood up from the rock, the space in front of the rock suddenly shook. Then, a figure appeared there. Seeing this, the ox-head man couldn't help but be shocked. The other party seemed to be very strong, and there seemed to be a special aura around the other party. "Who are you?" The ox-head man stood on the rock and looked coldly at Gu Fei below. At this moment, the heaven and earth spiritual chi in the valley was still gathering towards him. The ox-head man's body automatically absorbed the surrounding heaven and earth spiritual chi without stopping. "The person who will kill you." As soon as Gu Fei said this, a shocking killing intent erupted from his body. The powerful force caused the space around him to shake. "Humph, boasting shamelessly." The ox-head man sneered. This was not the abandoned land of the gods. In this world, he could constantly absorb heaven and earth spiritual chi to recover his exhausted yuan chi. To a certain extent, he was already standing in an invincible position. Bang! Gu Fei didn't say much. He directly used the heaven-covering palm. The palm covered the sky, and the entire world suddenly darkened. A single palm covered the sky, sealing the space where the ox-head man was at. A powerful force spread in all directions, and the heaven and earth spiritual chi in the valley became chaotic. Preposterous. "I'll let you see how powerful your grandpa ox is." The ox-head man was really angry. He also stretched out his hand and slapped upwards. Boom! The two huge hands collided with each other in an instant, producing an earth-shattering sound. Under the collision of these two forces, the void instantly collapsed and turned into chaos. The energy storm that swept out in all directions uprooted all the trees in the entire valley, and then directly crushed them into dust. The valley that was originally filled with vitality instantly turned into a barren land. All the plants were instantly crushed, revealing the sand underneath. The ox-head man was very surprised. He didn't expect Lin Fan to be able to withstand his palm. The two huge palms dissipated, and no one could really suppress the other. Good fella. Gu Fei was secretly shocked. This ox-head man's physical body was really strong, so strong that it was abnormal. This guy actually dared to go head-on against him. Swish, swish. Chapter 1982. Boom. The entire valley exploded. An extremely ferocious force wreaked havoc, destroying everything in its path. The two figures were like two ancient war gods fighting. Everywhere they passed by, everything was destroyed. The mighty shockwaves from the mountain engulfed a radius of 10,000 miles. This was the result of the two experts carefully controlling their strength. If they were to go all out without any reservations, the surrounding 10,000 miles would be shrouded by their auras. This was the terror of a great completion quasi-sage. They were just a step away from becoming a sage. When they went all out, their auras could cover a radius of 10,000 miles and shake the world. Roar! The Minotaur roared in anger. The baleful aura on his body was incomparably dense. One look and one could tell that this fellow was definitely not a good person back in the ancient times. At this moment, Gu Zhong, who was originally waiting outside the valley, had already flown into the sky and retreated far away when Gu Fei and the ox-headed man started fighting. This Minotaur's physical body is actually so strong. Gu Zhong couldn't help but feel shocked when he saw the two figures fighting in the distance. One must know that his master was a great completion quasi-sage. His martial body was so strong that it was comparable to a sage weapon. His master was just a step away from cultivating the undying martial body. Even with such a strong martial body, he could only fight evenly with the Minotaur. It would be hard for him to gain any advantage. Primal Chaos Fist. In the end, Gu Fei still executed a fist technique that he had been perfecting. The power of Primal Chaos surged, shaking the entire sky. On his fist, Tao runes of Primal Chaos could be vaguely seen. Bang! Gu Fei's right fist collided with the Minotaur's right fist. This was a direct contest of strength, and there was no room for tricks. And the Minotaur only felt an extremely powerful force coming from the other party's fist. This force pushed him back more than 10 steps. Little fella, you haven't used your full strength yet. The ox-headed man was extremely shocked. In the ancient times, there were very few races that could contend against the physical bodies of the ox-headed man. But today, the physical body of this human was enough to make him feel threatened. The Minotaur couldn't help but frown when he felt the pain from his fist. Preposterous. If it was in ancient times, when I was at my peak, I would be able to squash this little thing to death with a single finger. But now, the Tauren felt like a tiger being bullied by a dog. If I go all out, I'm afraid you'll be finished immediately. That won't be fun anymore. The corner of Gu Fei's mouth rose, revealing an incomparably cold smile. He knew that this Tauren was very strong, but he wasn't one to be trifled with. This place wasn't too far from the forsaken land of the gods, but it was very remote and uninhabited. Gu Fei was still fighting with the Minotaur, and even now, no one had come. In other words, there were no cultivators within a 10,000-mile radius. At the very least, there were no powerful cultivators. However, as time passed, someone would definitely notice the commotion here. The ox-headed man did not want to alarm other experts. After all, he had yet to recover his vitality. Shameless boasting. The ox-headed man was both shocked and angry. He opened his mouth and inhaled, using the heaven-devouring divine art. A heaven-devouring power surged out of his mouth and swept towards Gu Fei. The terrifying devouring power sucked Gu Fei and the space around Gu Fei over. The ox-headed man wanted to swallow Gu Fei in one gulp. If you want to die, then I'll grant your wish. Gu Fei thought that this guy actually dared to swallow him into his stomach. If this wasn't courting death, then what was? He pretended to resist, but he was pulled over by the heaven-devouring power and swallowed into the ox-headed man's stomach. Seeing this scene, Gu Zhong couldn't help but be dumbfounded. His master had actually been swallowed into the ox-headed man's stomach. This was too inconceivable. Could it be that master did this on purpose? Gu Zhong muttered to himself. He wasn't stupid. He quickly guessed Gu Fei's intentions and couldn't help breaking out in a cold sweat for Gu Fei. This was too risky. Haha. The ox-headed man was pleasantly surprised. He raised his head and laughed. He didn't think that this little thing would be so easily swallowed into his stomach. As long as he swallowed someone, even a saint would be reduced to a puddle of blood. At this moment, Gu Fei, who had been swallowed by the ox-headed man, entered the ox-headed man's stomach. He was shocked to find that the ox-headed man's stomach was actually a ball of dark blue demonic light. He was trapped in this dark blue demonic light, and his essence was actually leaking out. Demonic runes were faintly discernible on the dark blue demonic light, interweaving with each other to form a powerful demonic energy. The demonic ox clan was a branch of the demonic demon clan. They possessed the bloodline of the demonic demon clan and had a powerful body. Coupled with the demonic energy, the demonic ox clan was a powerful clan in the ancient era. Gu Fei felt that the demonic light around him was shrinking. A demonic energy that could destroy everything in the world was surging towards him from all directions. Humph! Gu Fei snorted coldly. Then, with a thought, an illusory image of a huge cauldron immediately emerged from his body and enveloped him. The destructive energy that came from all directions was immediately blocked by the ancient cauldron image on Gu Fei's body. It couldn't get close to Gu Fei at all. Yes. At this moment, the ox-headed man outside was about to kill Gu Zhong. But at this moment, his expression suddenly changed. He seemed to have sensed a change that shocked him. It was a change that came from within his body. The ox-headed man directly sat down cross-legged with an expression of disbelief on his face. Explode your body. Inside the ox-headed man's body, Gu Fei also sat down cross-legged. Then, he activated the power of the mountain and river cauldron. The ancient cauldron outside his body immediately grew bigger. Roar! The ox-headed man roared angrily. He could feel the change that was happening in his body. He activated the power in his body to suppress the mountain and river cauldron that was growing bigger. An endless amount of power was directed towards the ancient cauldron. However, what made the ox-headed man's heart cold was that no matter how much he activated the power in his body, he couldn't suppress the ancient cauldron image. What's going on? My body is the body of a sage. How can it be threatened by the ancient cauldron image? The ox-headed man didn't believe it. However, when he tried many methods to suppress the ancient cauldron image to no avail, he had to believe it. Could it be the mountain and river cauldron? Chapter 1983. How is this possible? It's really the mountain and river cauldron. The ancient ox demon was scared out of his wits. If a mountain and river cauldron appeared in his body, it would definitely cause his body to explode, destroying both his body and soul. Unlike when he was sealed by a supreme being, the current ox demon was no longer the peerless evil demon that dared to challenge a supreme being. Buzz. The ancient cauldron shadow around Gu Fei trembled. The demonic light that enveloped him was the first to disperse. Then, the ox demon's abdomen began to swell. Ah! The Minotaur's eyes were bloodshot, and the bones in his body emitted cracking sounds. A powerful and unstoppable force caused his body to swell up. His sweat had already soaked through the broken armor on his body. Didn't the mountain and river cauldron disappear with that person? How could it appear in this little guy's body? The bull-headed man was unwilling to die like this. It was too humiliating. Although he had a saint-level physical body, in front of the mountain river cauldron, not to mention a saint-level physical body, even a saint-level physical body would not dare to swallow the mountain river cauldron. Kacha, 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 kacha. The ox demon's body continued to swell. His bones were shattering. His muscles and tendons were being pulled. His entire body was like a rubber ball, expanding. Despicable little guy. The ox demon roared. He clenched his teeth. Then, a demonic light shot out from between his eyebrows. Within the demonic light, there was a small figure. It was the primordial spirit of the ox demon. The ox demon abandoned his body. Then, his primordial spirit didn't escape. Instead, it rushed into his body. A figure appeared where Gu Fei was. It's really the mountain and river cauldron. The ox demon's primordial spirit was extremely shocked. In the ancient era, the mountain and river cauldron's name was enough to shock the world. Legend had it that this ancient cauldron was a connate divine artifact formed by the heavens and earth. However, there were also legends that this ancient cauldron was a supreme artifact refined by a supremacy. Even in the ancient times, no one knew how this supreme artifact appeared or who refined it. However, one thing was certain, and that was that this ancient cauldron was a supreme godly weapon. I can't believe you didn't take the opportunity to escape. You could have taken the road to heaven, but you chose to barge into hell. When Gu Fei saw the Minotaur's spirit, his eyes immediately lit up. If the Minotaur chose to escape, it would be very difficult for Gu Fei to stop him. However, it was different now. The Minotaur's primordial spirit had actually entered his body. Primordial Soul Dao Transformation Sword. Gu Fei didn't hesitate. He used one of the 9 mystiques of the immortal Dao, the Essence Soul Sword. The power of his Essence Soul quickly condensed, and then, swish. A beam of purple light shot out from between his eyebrows, instantly turning into a huge blade that pierced towards the Ox Demon's soul. The Ox Demon's primordial spirit was shocked. It wanted to dodge, but the Essence Soul Dao sword was just too fast. It had only just shot out when it appeared before the Ox Demon's primordial spirit the next moment. The chilling sword chi had already locked onto the Ox Demon's primordial spirit. Swish! The Essence Soul Dao sword flashed past, and the Ox Demon's primordial spirit was immediately cleaved in half. However, to Gu Fei's shock, although the Ox Demon's primordial spirit was cleaved in half, it didn't dissipate into the void like other primordial spirits. How is this possible? Gu Fei was extremely shocked at the sight of this. He had never seen someone survive after their primordial spirit was cleaved in half. He knew the power of the Essence Soul Dao sword very well. It was a supreme divine technique of the immortal Dao that was specially used against the primordial spirits of cultivators. The Ox Demon's primordial spirit that had been cleaved in half actually gathered together. Very soon, a complete primordial spirit reappeared. What kind of mystique is this? The Ox Demon was truly stunned by the battle technique that Gu Fei had displayed. At this moment, he finally gave up on his physical body. His primordial spirit couldn't expel Gu Fei from his body. Rumble. The cauldron of mountains and rivers continued to expand. The sound of wind and thunder came from the Ox Demon's body, and hideous bloody scars began to appear on his body. The Ox Demon's body was about to explode from the power of the cauldron of mountains and rivers. The Supreme Dao Ancestor had yet to appear in the primordial era, and the 9 secrets of the immortal Dao that the Supreme Dao Ancestor had created would not have appeared in the primordial era. The Ox Demon couldn't tell what kind of mystique Gu Fei was using at all. Just as the Ox Demon was about to retreat, 2 people silently appeared behind his primordial spirit. They were Gu Fei's clones. He used the 3 Pure Ones technique, and the 2 clones silently appeared behind the Ox Demon's primordial spirit. What? How is this possible? Even though the Ox Demon from the primordial era was knowledgeable, he was still stunned by this scene. Gu Fei used the I Chi turning 3 Pure Ones technique to block it for a while. Boom. The ox-headed man's body finally exploded from the power of the mountain and river cauldron. A cloud of blood mist exploded in the air before gradually dissipating. The destructive power spread out, and the Ox Demon's primordial spirit was completely destroyed by this power. Nothing was left behind, which surprised Gu Fei. Gu Fei had the cauldron of mountains and rivers to protect himself. The destructive power of the Ox Demon's body was completely blocked by the cauldron of mountains and rivers. He had never heard of a saint-level expert's body exploding. Fortunately, it was the power of the cauldron of mountains and rivers. If the Ox Demon had exploded his own body, the power would have been even more terrifying. Rumble. The mighty energy storm swept through the surrounding tens of thousands of kilometers, and countless living beings were killed by this power. Not a single one was spared. The power released by the body of a saint-level expert was too great. This level of power was comparable to the destruction of heaven and earth. Everything within a radius of 30,000 miles was destroyed. Gu Zhong couldn't help but be stunned when he saw this scene from afar. This was too terrifying. Master, Gu Zhong couldn't help but worry for Gu Fei. Even 10 great accomplishment saint-level experts would die from such power. However, when he thought that Gu Fei had a supreme artifact to protect him, Gu Zhong felt more at ease. This movement was too great. Almost every place in the purple cloud mountain range could sense this fluctuation. In an instant, a few incomparably powerful spiritual wills swept over. Some big shots wanted to know what was happening here as soon as possible. These guys. Chapter 1984. The peerless expert of the ancient demonic ox clan died just like that. It was not that he was not strong, but that he was too careless. He thought that he could devour and refine Gu Fei with his own strength. This kind of devouring was a very common thing in the ancient era. Gu Fei's qi and blood were extremely vigorous. He was the best food for the demonic ox emperor. If he could successfully devour and refine Gu Fei, the demonic ox emperor's cultivation would definitely recover a small part. At that time, he would be able to move freely in the world. However, it was a pity that the demonic ox emperor did not expect Gu Fei to have the mountain and river cauldron that could suppress the mountains and rivers. The mountain and river cauldron had existed since the ancient era. It was a supreme artifact. If this supreme artifact were to fall into the hands of a supreme being, with a single strike of the cauldron, the heavens, the earth, the mountains, and the rivers would all be suppressed. No matter how powerful one was, they would still be completely suppressed. Their life and death would be at the mercy of a single thought. It was not that the demonic ox emperor's physical body was weak. Even if he was hit by a supreme artifact, he would only be slightly injured. However, in front of the mountain and river cauldron, even if the demonic ox emperor completely recovered his cultivation and returned to his peak, his physical body would still be destroyed by the mountain and river cauldron. The terror of a supreme artifact was not something that the demonic ox emperor could withstand. He died just like that, not even a hair. Under the protection of the mountain and river cauldron, Gu Fei was not injured at all in this great destruction. However, the power of the explosion of a saint-level physical body was too great. This made his heart palpitate. The area with a circumference of 30,000 miles was completely destroyed. A thick layer of the ground was shaved off. Countless lives disappeared in an instant. All of them were killed. Apart from being shocked, Gu Fei was also a little disappointed. This ancient creature did not even have a single treasure on him. This was really surprising. He had worked hard for nothing. These old guys. At that moment, Gu Fei sensed a few strands of divine sense sweeping over from afar. He couldn't help but feel angry. Purple light flashed on his forehead, and a ray of sword light flashed through the air, destroying the strands of divine sense. Roar! How dare you? This Gu Fei is simply too arrogant. Several other places in the southern region of Buzhou ancestral planet also unleashed powerful auras at the same time. On a mountain shrouded in white clouds, a green-robed old man who was sitting cross-legged on a boulder opened his eyes. At this moment, a drop of blood emerged from his forehead. A great technique that can sever divine will. The green-clothed old man said these words. His voice was incomparably old and filled with the vicissitudes of life. In another mountain range shrouded in immortal qi in the southern region of Buzhou, an angry roar came from a fairyland-like cave dwelling. All the living beings in this part of the heavenly abode were alarmed and fled in all directions. Opening up a paradise was something that only sages had the means to do. That was because it was easy to open up a paradise, but it was extremely difficult to maintain the stability of the paradise and make it exist forever. Only sages had the great power to stabilize the universe. In the depths of the violet cloud mountains, in a valley where the ancestral vein of the earth was located, a purple-robed old man who was sitting on a jade platform suddenly stood up. She was an old woman with a head of white hair and a face full of wrinkles. Her teeth were almost all gone. However, at this moment, the old woman's eyes shone brilliantly as if two cold stars were embedded on her face. A powerful aura emanated from the skinny body that seemed to be on the verge of death. At this moment, a drop of blood flowed from the old woman's forehead. This was the reason why she was furious. Someone had actually severed the divine will that she had sent out. It's the Saint Grandmother. In the valley, all the experts of the Ziyun clan were alarmed. A purple figure rushed out and landed nimbly on the jade platform. Grandmother, who made you angry? I'll go beat him up. The young girl waved her tender fists and said angrily, "Little Zier." The old woman's expression immediately improved when she saw the purple-robed young girl. The purple-robed young girl was the little princess of the Ziyun clan, Ziyun. She was the darling of the heavens and was loved by everyone in the Ziyun clan. Even the hot-tempered saint grandmother could not get angry in front of her. "An arrogant young man actually severed my divine will," the saint grandmother said fiercely. Holy Grandma said ruthlessly. Gu Fei's insolence made her very unhappy. If Holy Grandma was unhappy, the consequences would be dire. "What? Don't tell me it's that Gu Fei who defeated my brother?" Ziyun rolled her eyes and immediately thought of a person. It seemed that only this person had the ability to sever the saint grandmother's divine will. She knew very well how powerful and terrifying the saint grandmother was. She was a self-proclaimed saint, similar to Saint Zisu in the clan. They were both saints who sealed themselves and stayed in the human world. A saint who sealed themselves did not have the cultivation and strength of a saint, but they were still the strongest existences in the human world. Even a grand completion quasi-saint would only be a joke before them. "Let's go and have a look." The saint grandmother grabbed Ziyun and disappeared from the jade platform. Seeing that the saint grandmother had left, there were people walking around in the valley. One should know that the old woman had a very bad temper. No one dared to appear in front of her when she was angry. In the entire Ziyun clan, there were definitely no more than 3 people who could speak in front of the saint grandmother. Whoosh! A streak of purple light flew over from the horizon like a purple meteor. It suddenly flew over from afar and appeared in the forbidden zone where there was no vegetation. What's going on? The saint grandmother could not help but be shocked at this scene. The powerful aura in the void had not completely dissipated. It seemed like a saint had self-destructed. "Saint grandmother, do you know who could cause such damage?" Ziyuner was stunned by what she saw. The area within a radius of 30,000 miles had become an empty space. The ground had been shaved off, and it was as if a huge pit had suddenly appeared in the purple cloud mountains. If we were to attack with our full strength, we could indeed cause such damage. However, the price to pay would be great. The saint grandmother said solemnly. She carefully sensed the remnant aura in the void and her eyes flickered. That person can't be this powerful. This is Ziyun's expression suddenly changed. She sensed the remnant aura in the void. It was a little familiar. She thought of someone. To think that that guy died here. Chapter 1985. After Gu Fei used his primordial soul Dao sword to sever the divine wills of those important figures, he left the Violet Clouds Mountains with Gu Zhong. When the Holy Grandmother and Ziyun of the Ziyun clan arrived at the battlefield, Gu Fei and Gu Zhong had already left. They did not meet. Very soon, other powerful existences also appeared on that side of the battlefield. Everyone was stunned by the scene in front of them. Not long after, a piece of news spread throughout the entire southern region of Buzhou, and even the central region. The expert of the Ox Demon clan, who had been sealed since ancient times, was killed in the Purple Cloud Mountains. The appearance of the ancient races made the Gold family extremely nervous. Now that they heard this news, they could finally heave a sigh of relief. It should be known that when the primordial demonic Ox Monarch was born, the Golden Goddess had once beaten the demonic Ox Monarch to the point that he had to use the Earth Escape technique to escape. It was that man who killed that cow. In a castle of the Gold family in the north, a woman wearing a golden mask gazed into the distance as she muttered to herself. The Gold family's information network was rather fast. Because the Gold family had sent a large number of experts into the southern region to chase after the primordial demonic Ox Emperor. One must know that once the demonic Ox Emperor recovered, it would be a disaster for the entire Gold family. Killing the demon Ox Emperor while he was injured was the best way to get rid of this hidden danger. However, before the experts dispatched by the Gold family could find the demon Ox Emperor, the news that the demon Ox Emperor had been killed in the Purple Cloud Mountain range came. Very soon, the people of the Huangjing clan found out that a peerless human expert had blocked the demon Ox Emperor in the Violet Cloud Mountains, and then fought with it, killing it on the spot. In the southern region of Buzhou, there are only 3 to 5 people who have the ability to kill that bull. However, Those people did not leave their cultivation grounds that day. The golden goddess muttered to herself, "Since it's not the two old geezers from the Ziyun clan or that freak, the South Pole immortal exalt, it can only be that person." The golden goddess was speculating. She knew that it was impossible for anyone else to act. It could only be that person who found the cow and killed it. That person is actually this strong. Looks like I'll have to make some preparations as well. Otherwise, it would be a little difficult for me to step onto the ancient road of cultivation of the human race just like that. The golden goddess turned around and walked into the castle. The human race's ancient path of cultivation will open in 10 years. A few days later, the notice from the Middle Continent Immortal Abode was posted in every major city on the ancestral star of Buzhou. The entire cultivation world was in an uproar. The immortal palace of the Middle Province was the ruler of the central region of the ancestral star of Buzhou. Whether it was the Gold Clan of the North or the Ziyun Clan of the South, they were all wary of the immortal palace of the Middle Province. This was a superpower. Most importantly, the central prefecture Immortal Manor controlled a cultivation path that led to the outer realm. Every 5,000 years, this ancient path would open once. All the cultivators on the ancestral star of Buzhou would have the chance to step onto this ancient path. However, very few of those who set foot on this ancient path could return to the ancestral star of Buzhou. However, those who did return all became experts of the world. Some people said that the end of the ancient path was a source of life. As the news of the human race's ancient path opening spread throughout the cultivation world, Gu Fei and his disciple were drinking in a tavern in Matchless City in the southern region of Buzhou. "Master, should we go explore the human race's ancient path of the outer domains?" Gu Zhong was eager to give it a try. He was confident that he would not lose to any of the rising talents on the ancestral star of Buzhou. Moreover, his cultivation had reached a bottleneck. If he took another step forward, he would become a ruler among the Almighties. Gu Fei thought about it and said, "There's still 10 years left. We should first find a way to return to the soaring dragon ancestral star, then consider if we should try the human race's ancient path." Gu Zhong nodded. After all, their priority was to return to the soaring dragon ancestral star. In truth, Gu Fei was planning to return to the soaring dragon ancestral star through the purgatory path, but he discovered that the exit of the purgatory path had changed. A powerful Buddhist power was gradually awakening outside the exit, and it had completely sealed the exit. Gu Fei was aware of the changes in the Hell Path as he possessed the realm bead of the Hell Path. The Hell Path was one of the 6 paths of reincarnation that the ancient Buddhist Lord had opened up. No one knew if the ancient Buddhist Lord had any other tricks up his sleeves. The fact that the exit of the Hell Path was completely sealed gave Gu Fei a bad feeling. If the ancient Buddhist Lord didn't die, then Gu Fei did not dare to think about it. Everything related to an honorable was an unsolvable mystery. Subsequently, Gu Fei and Gu Zhong left Matchless City and headed for the Middle Continent. The Middle Continent was the most prosperous place in the human cultivation world on the ancestral star of Buzhou. Although it was not as vast and mysterious as the southern region and northern region, there were many talents here. The immortal mansion of the Middle Continent was a super force that had existed for countless years. Chapter 1986. Blocking the road and robbing us? No way. Gu Fei and his disciple were dumbfounded. The dozen people in front of them had the air of a bandit. It was obvious that they were the nearby bandits. Such people dared to rob a cultivator? They really didn't know the meaning of death.
Yes.
However, Gu Fei and his disciple soon realized that something was amiss. The dozen or so people in front of them were obviously not ordinary people, especially the burly man who seemed to be the leader and held a big black saber. His body actually emitted the energy of an immortal spirit. "Master, these guys seem to be immortal bandits." Gu Zhong smiled. Immortals actually became bandits? This was something he had never seen or heard of before. They really are immortals. Did a donkey kick these guys in the head and cause them to have problems? Gu Fei also smiled. "What are you two squabbling for? If you know what's good for you, put down your things and scram." The burly man brandished the big black saber in his hand twice as he spoke to Gu Fei and his disciple in a fiendish manner. A murderous aura surrounded his body. Master, this guy wants us to put down our things? What should we do? Gu Zhong glanced at the man in front of him and smiled evilly. He was really lucky today to meet such a bunch of idiots. Then we'll put down our things. What else can we do? Gu Fei shrugged his shoulders and said, Big guy, the treasure is coming. With that, Gu Fei took out the 9 heavenly star sword and threw it at the man. When the burly man saw Gu Fei throw the black sword over, he subconsciously stretched out his left hand in an attempt to catch it. However, the moment his hand touched the black sword, he felt his hand sink. The black sword fell to the ground in front of the burly man with a pu sound and smashed into the ground. The burly man holding the big black saber couldn't help but be startled when he saw the black sword smashed into the ground. He was actually unable to catch the sword. The weight of the sword was shocking. One must know that he was an immortal spirit. The strength of his grasp was strong enough that he could even lift a small mountain. But now, he couldn't even catch a sword. Could it be that this sword was heavier than a hill? The muscular man's heart grew tense. For this person to be able to pick up such a heavy sword meant that he was no ordinary person. It was highly likely that he was also a cultivator. In fact, he might even be an immortal. Thinking of this, the smile on the muscular man's face immediately disappeared. Boss, go. Kill those two. A lackey behind the burly man shouted arrogantly. Up your ass. The muscular man roared in anger. Without even looking, he swung his left hand behind him. He slapped the lackey hard in the face, causing the lackey to stagger and spit out a few teeth. Boss. The lackey innocently covered his left cheek and looked at the burly man. Shut up. The muscular man glared at the lackey, then squatted down and stuck his left hand into the ground. He grabbed the black sword and pulled it up. Okay. The muscular man felt that the black sword in his hand was extremely heavy. When he tried to pull it up, the black sword didn't move at all. This shocked the muscular man. This black sword was really heavy. This had already exceeded his expectations. Hee, big guy. As long as you can pick up this sword, we'll give you everything we have. Gu Zhong smiled. He naturally knew how heavy his master's 9 heaven star sword was. Even almighty existences would find it very heavy to lift the divine sword. Only his master could wield such a heavy weapon freely. You must keep your promise. The muscular man looked up at Gu Zhong. Yes, said Gu Zhong. Gu Zhong said, this robust man was merely at the immortal god realm. In his opinion, picking up the 9 heavenly stars sword was undoubtedly the ravings of a lunatic, and it was utterly impossible. At this moment, the muscular man put down the big black saber in his hand. Then, he grabbed the hilt of the black sword and used his chi to lift it up. Roar. The muscular man used all his strength to lift the black sword up. However, the black sword that was stuck in the ground didn't move at all. What? This caused the burly man to be extremely shocked. At this moment, he felt that something was wrong. Something was very wrong. Cold sweat immediately appeared on his forehead. The burly man roared again and again. He tried several times in a row, but he couldn't pick up the black sword from the ground. No matter how much he tried, the black sword seemed to have taken root in the ground and didn't budge at all. Boss. At this moment, the lackeys behind the muscular man also realized that something was wrong. The master-disciple duo, Gu Fei and Gu Zhong, watched all of this coldly. This is bad. The muscular man knew that he had encountered an existence that he couldn't afford to provoke. This time, he had kicked an iron plate. Seniors, I still have something to do. I'll take my leave first. The muscular man's expression changed several times. Then, he suddenly grabbed the big black saber beside him and stood up. He cupped his hands towards Gu Fei and Gu Zhong before turning around and leaving. This guy. Seeing this, Gu Fei and Gu Zhong couldn't help but be stunned. This muscular man was truly a genius. To be able to fight like this during a great calamity, he could be considered a weirdo. Leaving so quickly? You're not going to play anymore? Gu Zhong chuckled and said, I really have something to do. Please forgive me, senior. As the muscular man spoke, he quickened his footsteps. He couldn't wait to leave this place. Don't walk so quickly. Gu Zhong's voice came from behind the muscular man. Then, the muscular man felt a weight on his right shoulder. A palm was placed on his right shoulder. There's nothing to play with. Gu Fei smiled and raised his hand. The black sword that was stuck in the ground immediately flew out and landed in his hand. Kill. Seeing that Gu Zhong had instantly appeared behind the muscular man and restrained him, the dozen lackeys that the muscular man brought with him immediately drew their weapons and attacked Gu Zhong. Humph! Gu Zhong coldly snorted. His right hand pressed down on the muscular man. Then, with a wave of his left hand, the dozen lackeys were immediately sent flying and heavily smashed onto the ground. For a moment, not a single one of them could stand up. Senior, I am a member of the 13 Iron Blood Flags. I have eyes but failed to see and have offended Senior. I hope that Senior can give face to the Iron Blood Taoist and let me live. The burly man only felt that the hand on his right shoulder was as heavy as a mountain. He was actually pressed down on one knee, unable to stand up. Beads of sweat the size of soybeans continuously appeared on the burly man's forehead, then rolled down his forehead, flowed down his face, and dripped to the ground. Chapter 1987. The 13 Iron Blood Banners? Gu Zhong was startled by the man's words. He had stayed in the southern region of planet Buzhou for 3 years, so he naturally knew the distribution of the factions there. The 13 Iron Blood Banners was a bandit faction that occupied the area between the southern region and the center continent. The leader of this bandit faction was someone called the Iron Blood Taoist. The Iron Blood Taoist was quite a character. The 13 Iron Blood Banners had only existed for less than 1,000 years. The Iron Blood Taoist had integrated the 13 bandit groups in the southern region into one, and that was how the 13 Iron Blood Banners came to be. 1,000 years ago, the Iron Blood Taoist appeared out of nowhere and subdued the 13 bandits all by himself. The 13 bandits were no ordinary figures. Each of them was a powerful existence that could dominate the southern region. They were a huge headache for the Ziyun clan. The Ziyun clan had once sent out experts to eradicate the 13 great bandits, but even now, the 13 great bandits were still alive and well. That was especially true after Iron Blood Taoist single-handedly subdued the 13 great bandits. Due to that, the forces of bandits in the southern region of Buzhou grew even stronger. Many of the cultivators traveling between the southern region and the central plains were robbed by the 13 Iron Blood Banners. There were even some beautiful female cultivators who were snatched up by the 13 Iron Blood Banners and became the wives of the Iron Blood Banners. In recent years, the bandits of the 13 Iron Blood Banners became even more arrogant. They even dared to attack cultivators from some major powers, and many cultivators from major powers were robbed by them. As long as you let me go, everything can be discussed, said the man. His clothes were drenched in sweat. Although he was an immortal, he was as weak as a newborn baby before this person. He couldn't even muster any thoughts of resistance. The reason why these people became bandits was to survive. When the man realized that he wasn't Gu Zhong's match, the first thing he thought of was how to save his own life. The resources in the cultivation world were all in the hands of major factions. Wandering cultivators had no choice but to become bandits that robbed other cultivators. So what if I don't let you go? I'm not afraid of the 13 Iron Blood Banners. Gu Zhong didn't withdraw his right hand from the burly man's shoulder. Instead, he increased his strength, causing the burly man to immediately fall to the ground, unable to straighten his back. Senior, please spare our lives. We were forced to do this. The burly man panicked. This person didn't even give face to the Iron Blood Taoist of the 13 Iron Blood Flags. Could it be that he was an expert who could challenge the Iron Blood Taoist? If he provoked such a person, then he would really be out of luck. You actually dare to be on the streets outside the immortal Venerable city? Aren't you afraid that the experts inside the immortal Venerable city will come out and kill you? At this moment, Gu Fei walked over. The Celestial Emperor city can't even take care of itself now. How would they have time to care about us? The burly man quickly said. He wanted to show that he still had some value in front of these two people. In this way, he would have a higher chance of not being killed. You're not stupid. How could Gu Zhong not know what this fellow was thinking? It didn't matter if he killed such a person or not. An immortal-level existence really made him a little embarrassed to make a move. He withdrew his right hand from the burly man's shoulder. "Thank you for your praise, Senior. In the world of cultivation, we have to be careful." The burly man heaved a sigh of relief and stood up. At this moment, the burly man's dozen lackeys were still lying on the ground, groaning in pain. Their cultivation levels weren't high, so their fall wasn't light. No one cared about their life or death, not even the muscular man. He didn't even look at his lackeys. This was the cruel world of cultivation. Only those with powerful cultivation and strength would be valued by others. "What's your name?" Gu Fei looked at the burly man with interest. This fellow was really interesting. "I'm in Wushang," the burly man answered carefully. "In Wushang?" Gu Fei couldn't help but laugh. This fellow's name was the same as his person. It was also very interesting. It seemed that this person really knew how to protect himself. "Seniors, if there's anything that you can't do, you can leave it to me. I definitely won't disappoint you." "You? What can you do for us?" How laughable. Gu Zhong couldn't help laughing again. This fellow was just an insignificant immortal god. His abilities were very limited. In this grand world, even immortals would find it hard to protect themselves. However, An Wushang's words were very serious. Even if he was an ant, as long as he displayed his value, people would be interested. This was one of the experiences An Wushang had accumulated as an independent cultivator step by step to become an immortal god. These experiences were incomparably precious and had allowed him to live until now. "Yes, take us to the 13 iron blood flags." Gu Fei thought for a while before saying this. "What?" When An Wushang heard this, he was immediately taken aback. All sorts of thoughts quickly spun through his mind because of Gu Fei's words. He was thinking quickly, trying to guess what Gu Fei was going to do next. But he was disappointed. He wasn't Gu Fei, so how could he know what Gu Fei was thinking? Reading people's expressions was also a skill to survive in the cultivation world. An Wushang had already cultivated this skill to an extremely proficient level. But at this moment, he couldn't get any useful information from Gu Fei's expression. This was because Gu Fei's face was completely expressionless. No one could tell what he was feeling right now. "Master, what are you?" Even Gu Zhong didn't know why his master would do such a thing. The bandits of the 13 iron blood flags weren't easy to deal with, especially that iron blood Taoist. Rumor had it that he had successfully broken through the shackles of cultivation and became a sage-to-be. This was also the reason why the people of the Ziyun clan and the immortal revered city were wary of the Taoist. The Ziyun clan and the immortal revered city were indeed powerful, much more powerful than the 13 iron blood banners. However, if a demi-saint went berserk, it would still be terrifying. Exterminating the 13 iron blood flags required a huge price. Thus, both the Ziyun clan and the immortal palace of the Center Plains were unwilling to lose any manpower at this time. As long as the Taoists didn't go too far, the people of the Ziyun clan and the immortal palace of the Center Plains would endure it. This was the reason why the 13 iron blood flags could survive in the cracks between the Ziyun clan and the immortal palace of the Center Plains. As long as the 13 iron blood flags didn't cross the bottom line of these two supreme powers, they wouldn't touch them. Don't you think that the two of us are too weak? Chapter 1988. Gu Fei and Gu Zhong were both powerful individuals, but there were only two of them. No matter how powerful they were individually, there were many things that were difficult to accomplish. However, as an expert, there was no need for them to do everything personally. As long as they gave the order, there would naturally be countless people who would do things for them. This was the benefit of having one's own faction. An Wushang's words reminded Gu Fei that if he had his own faction on planet Buzhou Ancestral Star, it would definitely be much more convenient for him to do things. He didn't want to borrow the power of other super factions, because there would be many conflicts of interest. Those super factions were also not good people. Since he didn't want to borrow the power of other factions on planet Buzhou Ancestral Star to do things for him, there was only one way, and that was to establish his own faction. However, it was not an easy task to establish his own force in a short period of time. However, the existence of the 13 Iron Blood Banners saved Gu Fei a lot of time and effort. As long as he could control this force for his own use, it would be enough. At night, Gu Fei and Gu Zhong were led by An Wushang to a stronghold of the Iron Blood 13 Banners in the mountains 1,000 miles away from Immortal Venerate City. This stronghold was a new stronghold of the Iron Blood 13 Banners. Because the Iron Blood 13 Banners had recruited many wandering cultivators in recent years, their faction had expanded very quickly. Because of the arrival of the Great Era, many experts had appeared, and the wandering cultivators on planet Bujo Ancestral Star were having an even harder time. In this Great Era, wandering cultivators were the most worthless. If they encountered those from large factions who had come out to train, they would very likely lose their lives. For a wandering cultivator like An Wushang, if he wanted to live, he would have to join a powerful faction. However, there weren't many factions that these wandering cultivators could truly join. Those large sects would not accept them, because there was a problem of loyalty. The disciples of large sects had all entered the sect from a young age, and then they would cultivate and grow in the sect. It was the sect that nurtured them. The loyalty of such disciples was definitely much higher than those wandering cultivators who had come to join a sect. Rogue cultivators who came to join a sect with their skills were definitely not loyal enough. Loyalty was something that needed time to be nurtured. However, a bandit force like the 13 Iron Blood Banners had a much lower requirement for loyalty. They were bandits to begin with. With the advent of the Great Era, factions like the Iron Blood 13 Banners had the opportunity to develop rapidly. Thus, the Iron Blood 13 Banners developed quite well. Is it and bold? Just as An Wushang brought Gu Fei and his disciple closer to the stronghold, a loud shout came from a tall tower. Under the illumination of the torches, they could see a person looking out from the stone tower. "Old Brother Cheng, it's me, An Wushang." An Wushang hastily replied. He knew that if he hesitated in the slightest, Cheng Datu would mercilessly attack him from the top of the tower. Cheng Datu was famous for not recognizing his own family. "And bold, what's going on? 13 people went out with you. Why did you bring back 3? Did you run into a vicious character?" Cheng Datu let down the barrier in front of the stronghold as he spoke, letting An Wushang in. This stronghold was located in a mountain valley. The entire mountain valley had been turned into a stronghold by the Iron Blood 13 Banners. There were fluctuations of formation energy in the air above the stronghold. To enter the stronghold, one had to go through the stronghold's main gate. Today, the one guarding the gate was Cheng Datu. Because his head was a bit larger than the average person's, and he was also a bit shorter and smaller than the average person's, his head was very conspicuous. As a result, An Wushang and the others had given him a nickname, Datu. Although Cheng Datu's head was large and his body was small, he was still an immortal. His strength was even slightly greater than An Wushang's. It was this slight difference that allowed Cheng Datu's treatment within the stronghold to be much better than An Wushang's. That was because Cheng Datu didn't need to go out and rob people. It had to be known that being a bandit was a very dangerous occupation. You might run into someone stronger than you at any time, and you might lose your life at any time. Audaciousn, you really are a lucky bastard. You actually managed to come back alive. Inside the stronghold, a few people who recognized An Wushang greeted him when they saw him walk in. Those two, but at this moment, someone realized that the 2 people behind An Wushang weren't one of his lackeys. Whoosh! In the blink of an eye, at least 5 people had surrounded An Wushang and Gu Fei. Audaciousn, you must have eaten a bear's heart or a leopard's gall to dare bring outsiders in. At this moment, a loud shout came from the tower. Following that, a small figure jumped down from the tower. A short person with an especially conspicuous head appeared in front of An Wushang. Cheng Datu, I also had no choice. These 2 seniors wanted to pay you a visit, and I couldn't refuse. What do you think? An Wushang stepped aside. Who are you? Cheng Datu's heart couldn't help trembling. Someone had actually taken the initiative to attack them. This was a very rare thing. Ever since the stronghold had been built, such a thing had never happened. The others were incomparably nervous. It had to be known that only a fierce dragon would cross the river. Since they dared to come knocking, it was enough to prove that these 2 were very confident. So confident that they could easily exterminate everyone in the stronghold. Call out the people in charge of this place. Gu Zhong took a step forward and expressionlessly swept his gaze over these people. These people were all immortals, but they had fallen to become bandits. Were immortals really that worthless now? Had they all become bandits? These people were all newly joined vagrant cultivators of the 13 Iron Blood Banners. They were very smart. Although they were cautious, they didn't take the initiative to attack. Just you wait. Chung Tu was just about to go report. Which expert has graced us with his presence? Forgive me for not going out to meet you. Just at this moment, a voice rang out from the depths of the stronghold. A person walked out. This person only stopped when he was 10 meters away from Gu Fei's group. He then began to carefully examine Gu Fei and his disciple. Chapter 1989. I am the person in charge of this place. May I know why you two fellow Taoists have come? If my people have offended you too, I apologize on their behalf. The middle-aged man said politely. He was secretly shocked that he couldn't see through the depths of these two people. Could it be that these two people were actually almighty? This time, he had really kicked an iron plate. This middle-aged man was the manager of this place, and his name was Bai Xiong. He wasn't some kind-hearted person. He had once annihilated 9 small sects in a single night. These 9 small sects refused to submit to the 13 Iron Blood Flags, so he single-handedly annihilated them, leaving not a single chicken or dog alive. Such a vicious person was someone that even Cheng Daidu, and Wu Shang, and the others would have to be careful in front of him, afraid of making a mistake. When he saw Gu Fei and Gu Zhong, if Gu Fei and Gu Zhong's cultivation and strength were below Bai Xiong's, why would Bai Xiong waste his breath on them? He would have directly killed them. But now, he didn't dare. You really know how to conduct yourself. When you came out just now, I seem to have sensed killing intent from your body. Gu Zhong looked at the middle-aged man in front of him and sneered. When this middle-aged man came out, it was obvious that he wanted to kill them. However, when this fellow could no longer see through Yangming, he completely withdrew his murderous aura. However, Gu Fei and his disciple were not ordinary people. Most of their cultivation was achieved through fighting. Both of them had experienced countless battles of life and death. Their sensitivity to killing intent could be said to have reached the point of perfection. As long as someone wanted to kill them, they would be able to sense it immediately. This fellow Taoist seems to have misunderstood. How could Bai Xiong have such thoughts towards you two fellow Taoists? The middle-aged man hurriedly said. His forehead was already covered in a layer of sweat. He looked calm on the surface, but he was extremely shocked in his heart. Forget it, I don't want to waste my breath on you. I'll only say it once. Where is the headquarters of your 13 Iron Blood Flags? If you know, tell me. If you don't, I'll kill you. Gu Zhong did not have the patience to talk to these people. What? Bai Xiong was shocked. These two people were actually looking for the headquarters of the 13 Iron Blood Banners? Did I hear wrongly? Where did these two people come from? Could they be supreme experts from the Ziyun clan? Or could they be quasi-saints from the Middle State? Everyone was stupefied, especially Chung Tu and the others. What kind of person did Audacious and bring back? He actually dared to directly attack the headquarters of the 13 Iron Blood Flags. Chung Tu and the others couldn't help looking at Wu Shang. Wu Shang helplessly shrugged his shoulders. He also wanted to know their origins, but even if he had 10 times the guts, he wouldn't dare ask. This was one of the keys to survival as a rogue cultivator. Don't ask about things you shouldn't know. Don't look at things you shouldn't see. If they spoke, they could live. If they didn't, the two of them would start a slaughter. That made everyone nervous, including Wu Shang. In this stronghold, Bai Xiong was probably the only one who knew where the headquarters of the 13 Iron Blood Flags was. The others had never been to the headquarters of the 13 Iron Blood Flags. This was also a matter of loyalty. Only the core members of the 13 Iron Blood Flags knew where the headquarters of the 13 Iron Blood Flags was. At this time, the stronghold was incomparably silent. Even the breathing of Chung Tu and the others could be heard. They were all looking at Bai Xiong. They didn't want to die. It had to be known that the reason why Chung Tu and the other rogue cultivators had joined the 13 Iron Blood Flags was to survive. If the 13 Iron Blood Flags couldn't guarantee their safety, then why would they join them and listen to their orders?
Yes.
Seeing Bai Xiong hesitate, Gu Zhong couldn't help feeling a bit irritated. These bandits all had a baleful aura and weren't good people. Killing them would be as easy as lifting a finger. He didn't mind sending them on their way. Bai Xiong's expression immediately changed when he sensed Gu Zhong's murderous aura. He did not want to die, but if he revealed the location of the 13 Iron Blood Flag's headquarters to the two of them, the 13 great bandits would definitely not let him off. He would definitely die without a burial. However, if he did not reveal the location, he would die right now. Fellow Taoists, I'll speak. Bai Xiong's voice trembled. If he didn't speak, then he would die immediately. Bai Xiong's loyalty to the 13 Iron Blood Flags wasn't as important as his own life. Very good. Gu Zhong smiled. Dealing with these loose cultivators was really simple and direct, unlike the disciples of the great sections. It was truly difficult to get any information from the disciples of the great powers. The majority of rogue cultivators viewed their own lives as more important than anything else. That was because survival was their #1 priority. Gu Fei and his master quickly left the stronghold of the 13 Iron Blood Flags. They brought Bai Xiong with them, but they didn't bring in Wushang. The loyalty of rogue cultivators was a problem. These rogue cultivators could betray them at any time. As long as they left in Wushang in the stronghold, Cheng Datu and the others wouldn't dare do anything to him. In their eyes, An Wushang had gotten lucky this time to catch the attention of those two seniors. Without any suspense, after Bai Xiong left, An Wushang became the boss of the 13 Iron Blood Flag stronghold. His cultivation level was not the highest in the stronghold, but his brain was the best among all the itinerant cultivators in the stronghold. Otherwise, he would not have survived. The headquarters of the 13 Iron Blood Flags was the Phoenix Nest. The Phoenix Nest was where the Iron Blood Taoist had made his fortune. It was here that he had obtained some sort of inheritance and cultivated his skills. The Phoenix Nest was actually a mountain valley surrounded by mountains. Beneath the valley, there was a spiritual cave that emitted spiritual qi day and night. It was also for this reason that the spiritual qi in the valley was much denser than outside. This place wasn't originally called the Phoenix Nest. It was only called the Phoenix Nest after the Iron Blood Taoist had risen to power. That was because the Iron Blood Taoist had obtained the immortal bird mysterious art here. That was a mysterious art created by the ancient undying Taoist. When this mysterious art was cultivated to the greater mastery level, one could transform into an immortal bird. The location of the Phoenix Nest was very hidden. The Iron Blood Taoist had laid down a grand formation to hide it. The Violet Cloud Clan and the Central Plains Immortal Palace had both tried to find the headquarters of the 13 Iron Blood Flags, but they hadn't found it in the end. Chapter 1990. Those guys from the 13 Iron Blood Banners really know how to pick a place. Early in the morning, Bai Xiong brought Gu Fei and the others to a mountain near the 13 Iron Blood Banners base camp, the Phoenix Nest. Gu Fei discovered that there was actually a dragon vein under this mountain. This area was located at the border between the Central Province and the Southern Province. It was a lawless area, and spirit veins rarely appeared in such a place. One must know that any place with a spiritual vein would be occupied by a major faction. Of course, the 13 Iron Blood Flags could be considered a major faction at the border between the Central region and the Southern region. Master, is there anything special about this place? Gu Zhong was not like Gu Fei. Gu Zhong only had a smattering of knowledge about formations. He had spent all his energy on martial cultivation, so he didn't know how to search for dragons and look at qi to strike acupoints. The dragon seeking here was not to search for a true dragon divine beast, but to search for the Earth's dragon vein. As for qi gazing, it was because wherever there was a dragon vein, the heaven and earth spiritual energy above the dragon vein would be different. The so-called striking acupoints was to find the place where the Earth's dragon vein essence converged after finding the dragon vein. The place where the Earth's dragon essence converged was the spirit cave. If we follow the direction of this dragon vein, we will be able to find the Phoenix Nest. Gu Fei said, the 13 Iron Blood Banners base camp, the Phoenix Nest, must be built at the place where the Earth's dragon vein essence converged. This was inevitable. If one wasn't proficient in formations, it would be very difficult to find the Phoenix Nest. This was because formations and the terrain were inseparable. Some formation masters could use the terrain to set up terrifying killing formations to kill enemies stronger than themselves. Where did the formation's power come from? The Earth's dragon vein essence could provide an endless source of power for the formation. Seniors, since you can find the phoenix nest by yourself, please let me go. At this time, Bai Xiong could no longer call Gu Fei and Gu Zhou fellow Taoist. In front of these two, he was like a newborn baby. He didn't have any thoughts of resisting. This was because these two people were too powerful. To be able to become the manager of a stronghold of the 13 Iron Blood Flags, this Bai Xiong must have a cultivation of the Immortal King level. Only with such a cultivation could he suppress those loose immortals. After all, those loose immortals were arrogant and unruly, and it was very difficult to restrain them. They would absolutely not obey those with lower cultivation than them, unless this person had a powerful backer. Bai Xiong did not have any backing. He was just one of the many core disciples of the 13 Iron Blood Banners, so he was still rather loyal to them. Only such a person would know where the phoenix nest was. If you want to leave, go ahead. At this time, Bai Xiong no longer had any value to Gu Fei and the others. It didn't matter if they killed him or not, because they wanted to subdue the 13 Iron Blood Flags, not kill him. Although it would be difficult to subdue the 13 Iron Blood Flags, it wasn't impossible. From what Bai Xiong had told them, the leader of the 13 Iron Blood Flags, the Iron Blood Taoist, was only a quasi-sage. Gu Fei was a great perfection quasi-sage, and the Iron Blood Taoist wasn't his match. Many thanks to the two seniors for not killing me. Bai Xiong was instantly overjoyed. He hurriedly bowed to Gu Fei and the others, then turned and fled. The joy of escaping from death made him temporarily forget everything. Let's go. It's time for us to meet the 13 great bandits of the 13 Iron Blood Flags. As Gu Fei spoke, he directly soared into the sky. A powerful aura erupted from his body. He no longer concealed his strength. Gu Zhong also flew into the sky. Enemy attack. Just as Gu Fei's corpse stopped concealing its aura, someone sensed the aura being released from their bodies 100 miles away. Appearing near the phoenix nest, if it wasn't an enemy, what else could it be? The grand formation that enveloped the entire phoenix nest was activated. Beams of divine light soared into the sky, interweaving to form an incomparably huge, transparent canopy, completely covering the phoenix nest. An aura of the divine Tao spread out. Saint-class formation. At this moment, Gu Fei and his disciple arrived in the sky above the phoenix nest. Divine light flickered below as countless Tao runes appeared. An incomparably powerful force was rapidly condensing. They were not in a hurry to make their move. Instead, they stood in the sky and quietly watched this scene. One had to admit that the defense of the phoenix nest was not bad. A Saint-class grand formation could block all experts below the sage realm outside. However, it was a pity that the ones who came this time were Gu Fei and his disciple. To Gu Fei, a Saint-class formation was not unbreakable. He just needed to spend a little more time. After all, he had even broken through an extreme Tao divine formation before. Who is it? A loud shout came from the phoenix nest. Then, a dark red silhouette rushed out from the phoenix nest and into the sky. It was a young man with an incomparably dense murderous aura. From his aura, one could tell that this young man was definitely a battle-hungry person. You are one of the 13 great bandits, Tu Qing. Gu Zhong took a step forward and looked down at the young man behind the transparent screen. Who are you? Could it be that the people from the Ziyun clan want to attack the 13 Iron Blood Banners? The young man named Tu Qing shouted. Tu Qing was extremely shocked to know that ever since the 13 Iron Blood Banners was established, no one had been able to find the headquarters of the 13 Iron Blood Banners. But today, early in the morning, someone had come to kill them. The Ziyun clan? What is the Ziyun clan? Ziyun Xiao was defeated by my master. Gu Zhong said. What? Hearing this, Tu Qing was shocked. Who were these two? How could they be so arrogant? Even the most talented disciple of the Ziyun clan, Ziyun Xiao, was not their opponent. Very quickly, Tu Qing thought of a person, and his expression immediately became very ugly. Your master, could it be Gu Fei? Tu Qing glanced at the people behind Gu Zhong and asked carefully, "That's right. This is my master, Gu Fei. Today, we are here to ask for your surrender." Gu Zhong said indifferently, "You, ha." Suddenly, Tu Qing pointed at Gu Zhong and laughed to the point that tears were coming out. "Is it really that funny? You're going to cry soon." Gu Zhong's expression was still calm. There was no expression on his face. At a time like this, he would not show any emotions. You guys are too funny. Haha." Tu Qing was still laughing. He couldn't help but laugh. Gu Zhong's words were truly funny to him. Two people were able to subdue the entire 13 Iron Blood Banners. This was simply the funniest joke he had ever heard. Gu Fei's name had already spread throughout the entire southern region. Even in other regions of planet Buzhou, many people knew of Gu Fei's existence. However, no matter how strong Gu Fei was, he was not as strong as a saint. Although they had found the headquarters of the 13 Iron Blood Banners, the Phoenix Nest was protected by a saint-level formation. Tu Qing did not believe that Gu Fei and the others could break through the formation and enter the Phoenix Nest. At this time, people continuously rushed out from the valley under the transparent sky curtain. These people were the core members of the 13 Iron Blood Banners. "Tu Qing, what's going on?" A tall man wearing the same dark red armor rushed out. The baleful aura on his body was much stronger than Tu Qing's. This man was simply a murderous demon king. Otherwise, how could his body condense such a strong, baleful aura? The baleful aura on this middle-aged man was so strong that it was almost visible to the naked eye. "Haha, Brother Jiu, this is too funny. These two fools actually want to subdue the entire 13 Iron Blood Banners with just the two of them." Tu Qing said with a smile. "What? Ha 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 ha." The man called Brother Jiu also laughed. "You two are really brave. You actually want to subdue us with just the two of you? Truly foolish." Brother Jiu had a boorish appearance. His voice was as loud as a bell. Despite being separated by a layer of sky curtain, his voice still spread far and wide. Gu Fei and Gu Zhong did not say anything, allowing them to laugh. After they had laughed enough, Gu Zhong said, "Surrender or die. It's up to you. Let us know when you've made your decision." Gu Zhong's face remained expressionless even after saying this. Tu Qing and Brother Jiu were unable to see anything from his expression. "Where did you guys come from? How do you talk so big? Did you eat too much garlic?" Brother Jiu also laughed to the point of tears. From their point of view, this was indeed very funny. Even the Ziyun clan or the Central Plains Immortal Manor would not dare to say such words. The person behind this idiot is Gu Fei, who is currently in the limelight. Tu Qing said. "What?" Brother Jiu was shocked. The 13 Iron Blood Banners were still very well informed. It was impossible for them not to know that Gu Fei had defeated Ziyun Shao. As the saying goes, the shadow of a tree is the shadow of a person. Since Gu Fei could defeat a descendant of a sovereign clan like Ziyun Shao, he definitely had some ability. "Hurry up and inform Boss Tai." Brother Jiu shouted at Tu Qing. Only the Iron Blood Taoist could deal with these two fellows. If they were to go out, they wouldn't even know how they died. Fortunately, they had activated the formation. Otherwise, the consequences would be unimaginable if that maleficent being allowed in. Is there a need to alarm Boss Tai? He's in seclusion right now. Tu Qing hesitated. One must know that the Iron Blood Taoist hated being disturbed during his cultivation. Tu Qing did not want to make Boss Tai unhappy. "You!" Brother Jiu glared at Tu Qing, then turned around and flew towards the valley below. "Have you made your choice? Surrender or die." At this time, Gu Zhong suddenly said to Tu Qing, "Are you stupid? Of course I don't want to die, but I don't want to surrender either. What can you do to me?" As one of the 13 great bandits, Tu Qing still had some pride. "Your life or death is not up to you.